G'day lads, Christmas Green here. Before we get into the best of the green text of the year, there's a couple things I want to get out of the way and also announce for you guys. The first one is that I've got a couple comments from time to time, well, probably more than a few comments by this point, that about the tone shift of green text videos and compilations like this, where it goes from like a spooky story to a feel story and it's kind of just like an immediate like break check and like throws you off completely. So to alleviate that, I've added time cards throughout the entire video, and so you can actually check on the video itself, and I've put a whole title card there as well, saying like, and I think that the first one I think is more the shitposty sort of ones, and then it goes spooky stories and feel stories or something like that. So yeah, if you want just feel stories of the year or just spooky stories of the year, just want to listen to some laughs, there's title cards there so you can select it, so there's not an immediate just break shot of like, whoa, that goes from a spooky story to my mum died, that's wild. Also, another thing that I want to get out of the way is I have a PO box. I've hardly bloody used it this year for the other stuff I was going to use it for, so screw it. You guys can have it. Send me stuff. Look, I know I'm going to get at least $5 in the mail, but might make for some good content. Who knows? If I get enough mail, might even make it into a series. Sorry for everyone that does live in Australia, because postage is going to be an absolute bastard. But yeah, if you want to, I don't know, send me stuff through Amazon or whatever to make your life a bit easier, there's the address there. That's about all I wanted to announce in this video. Enjoy the best of the year. Here's to 2021 being at least, somewhat better than this year. My name's Jeff. That's it. I don't know what else I wanted to say in this video.
Alright, I have a few stories from way back when. Be me. First day of year 10. Brit fan.
Yeah.
Arrive at school at 8 AM. I have about 30 minutes to kill. I see my friend in the geography building. We'll call him Eddie. He's important later on. Head on over. Ah shit. Jocks start approaching him, are picking a fight. Turns out Eddie is going out with one of the jock's exes. We'll call that jock Brad. I walk over and try to break up the fight. Eddie starts throwing punches. Teacher sees the fight from his office and storms over. Kill me, JPEG. The teacher is Brad's dad. Brad spills the beans and says I hit him. What the fuck, dude? Teacher goes rage 9000. Autistic yelling that MP3. Follow him to the languages building. Go upstairs to isolation room number 1. Isolation is basically detention, except for the entire school day. It's fucking boring, plus no supervisors, because they lock the door. Teacher straight shoves me into the room. Sit down there and don't even think about leaving. Do as I'm told, because I don't want to piss him off even more. He locks the door and walks down the corridor to the other isolation room with Eddie. Immediately become bored. Notice something poking out of the cupboards. Walk over. Holy shit, a laptop. Fuck yes. Even better, it belongs to one of the technicians. Fag put a sticker on it with his login details too. Bingo. Log into that shit. Notice document of teacher timetables on the desktop. Jackpot the JPEG. Turns out the teacher has a lesson just in the corridor after break. I plan revenge. Open up Impero to get ready. Realize the laptop could be traced back to the isolation room and I'll be suspended. Remove the laptop from X05. Change the details of the laptop and the account on the school system. I am now the terror that faps in the night. I am Hackman. Look at the CCTV feed of the teacher's classroom. He goes outside to speak with the students. Look at his screen via computer monitoring. Emails, nothing too interesting. Notice one with the subject, hey baby. Open it up. Holy shit, he's talking with a hooker via his school email. She sent him a video too. This is perfect. Look at the CCTV feed. Shit, he's coming back. Go to his inbox. He's getting back on his PC, getting the presentation for his class opened up. Brad walks into class. Evil laugh.wav. Brad turns on the projector for him and sits down. Teacher stands by the interactive whiteboard and starts talking. Use Impero to take control of his computer. Go to his Outlook and open up the video. He doesn't even realize because he's too busy talking directly to the students. Video starts playing at full volume. It's a sex tape of him and the hooker. Students start laughing. Brett is in shell shock and trying not to cry. Teacher frantically tries to turn the video off. No good. I control this computer now. My face went on WikiLeaks. Open up his Outlook again and compose a new email. Cheating will get him nowhere. Hackerman. Attach a sex tape to the email. Send it to his wife. Teacher has lost his shit. Storms out of his class and goes to the office. Check the CCTV. He's crying his eyes out. Shut down the laptop and put it in my bag. My work for today is done. Word of the incident spreads like wildfire. Hackman is hailed as a hero, bullied by the kids by Brad and his gang. The teacher quit the next day, and Brad moves to a different school. Mission accomplished. 1 week after the sex tape leak incident, Headmaster holds assembly about whole ordeal. Everyone is pissing themselves laughing. We will be taking legal action when we find out who has been misusing the school system. Challenge accepted.png. After assembly, I go straight to the storage room, get out the laptop from last time. I took it home with me for further Hackman exploits. The technician never found out. Go to the news on the school website. Let's get right into the news! Managed to find a way to add articles onto it. Start typing up some breaking news. 5 minutes later, my edition is complete. Open up Photoshop, get an image of the headmaster, get an image of the woman, schedule an article for release at 8:35 AM tomorrow morning. Go to my lesson. The teacher didn't realize I'd been in her lesson for a half hour or so. Now we wait. 8:35 AM the next day. Get into class. Teacher opens up the news page so she can read it out to us. Class bursts out laughing for the first article. The headmaster comes out as a woman. Attached is a Photoshop image of the headmaster's head on a woman's body. Below is another message. Don't threaten me, miss. Hackman. The school board see the article. They think it's legit. Send the headmaster emails congratulating him on his bold transition. Headmaster has to hold a staff meeting to state that he is not trans. Embarrassed at EXE. 2 months after the headmaster incident, mock exams are happening. Due to revisiting and doing the exams, not too much time to be Hackman. Parents will beat me if I get bad grades. Decide to revise for history on laptop at the school library. Immediately bored. Decide to fuck around with the CCTV and see what's going on. Some teachers are outside the languages building having a fag. Check what's going on with the technician's office. One guy's playing Rocket League. Legend.png. Notice that one of the cameras off. What the fuck? Turn it on. Regret it immediately. There was a Malaysian techie in the office watching hentai. Hentai, for fuck's sake! Hackman instinct kicks in. Impero has a screen sharing thing that you can broadcast to other computers connected to a system. Broadcast my screen to every computer in the school. Put the live CCTV footage in full screen. Everyone in school is watching the Malaysian jerk off to anime schoolgirls and tentacles. Just as he busts a nut all over the screen, the lead technician walks in. He and Malaysian start yelling at each other. Malaysian gets fired on the spot. Close the CCTV footage and open up Word. I leave a message for the students. The Malaysian masturbator is down and out. Make sure you aren't next. Hackman. Hackman is promoted to a legendary status in school. Malaysian masturbator is never seen again. My face when teachers start hailing Hackman as a hero. 3 days after the Malaysian masturbator was defeated, get called into ICT office. What the JPEG? Head down and enter the ICT office. Headmaster, lead technician, and lead ICT teacher are there. Oh fuck, I am so dead. About to piss myself in fear. Lead ICT teacher tells me to sit down. Kill me not, PNG. As you know, someone's been causing problems for the school. Fuck. I know that you have quite the expertise in ICT. I guess so? I want you to help monitor the school system and catch the hacker. No fucking way. My face when I'm a dirty cop, tasked with hunting the dirty cop. I would love to help. Get given special access to the technician's building whenever I want. Also given admin powers on my regular school account. All in all, it was a pretty good day. 2 months after being tasked with hunting myself, basically. In the technician's building, I've basically replaced the Malaysian masturbator. Get to use his office and PC whenever I want. Thankfully, they cleaned the spunk off the PC. Been doing a routine school system checks for anything suspicious. Check the website. No way.jpg. Guess who's back? Hackman. Has replaced the school logo. Some fucker has stolen my name and game. Look in the site's editing history. Fucking idiot. Didn't edit his shit on XO5. Track the computer. It's in the science computer room. Look in the CCTV. There is one person in the class. It's Eddie. Gasped at MP3. Lead technician walks in. He's traced Eddie's PC too. We've got Hackman now. He and the technicians go into the science building. Oh shit. Eddie is so fucked. 2 minutes later, the techies enter the science computer room and Eddie's taken to the headmaster's office. Word spreads that Eddie is Hackman. Can't have him take the credit. Go to storage room and get out my laptop. Take control of the headmaster's computer via Impero when he's out of the office to speak with Eddie. Delete System 32 from his computer. Take control of the deputy headmaster's computer and leave a message. Missed the real deal, m'lady? Hackman. Headmaster comes into his office and his computer is bricked. He sees the message on deputy's PC. He is pissed. Eddie gets let off because the headmaster thinks that he wasn't behind the site edit. Winning.png. 6 months after the Eddie dilemma. Not much has happened. A few minor trolls on teachers I didn't like. Still haven't found the hacker for the teachers. Wanted to end year 10 on a high note for Hackman. Get the perfect idea. Last day of school year. Everyone gets to choose what they want to do for the day. Arrive early in the morning. Open up laptop. Unblock all the blocked or filtered websites. Leave a sticky note on as many computers and laptops as possible. Consider this an end-of-year gift. Hackman. Soon people are accessing YouTube, Facebook and Steam. Others find out all websites are unblocked. School turns into the fucking Wild West. Some jocks are watching fake Taxi and browsers. Tards are straight up eating keyboards because tards. Thoughts are on Instagram. Huge influx of users on the school user space. Normally, it's only 200 or so students every hour, which the service can handle. Now you have at least 1,500 students all on the exact same time. The servers go down. The internet in the school is fucking dead. The school is nothing without the internet. Everyone gets sent home early so the techies can fix the servers. Lol the JPEG. Due to high demand, here are my further exploits as Hackman. Be me. First day of year 11. Still a Brit fag unfortunately. Because of exams, I want to put Hackerman in the past. Get to English class and wait. Decide to play TF2. Open up laptop and boot up Steam. Fucking updates. Technician walks by then stops. Hey, is that my old laptop? Shit myself to PNG. No? Oh, okay. I thought I recognized it. Sigh of relief to GIF. Corridor door bursts open. Jocks are picking a fight with Eddie again. We should have known you are really the Hackman, you cunt. Oh god, Eddie. This is for Brad! Knocks Eddie out with a swift punch. Get the school nurse. Eddie is sent to the hospital. Turns out he was telling people that he was actually Hackman and Jocks overheard him. Jocks managed to get away with it because teachers are fucking stupid. One last time. Go to the toilets at break and hide in cubicle. Manage to access the school's email account for each jock. Justice for Eddie. Each jock gets a different teacher. Mainly really old art and design teachers. Each is a simple sentence. Wanna fuck tonight at my place? Send. A few hours later. Jocks are called to the headmaster's office. People look through the door window to see. All the teachers that all the emails are sent to are there. The headmaster has gone ballistic. Jocks get isolation for the rest of the school week. Get a sticky note and a pen. Get a hoodie on and cover up my face. Go to isolation room that the jocks are in. Rush in and touch a sticky note to the door. Rush out with a thumbs up and leg it down to the corridor. Note read. This is for Eddie. Be careful what you do when he comes back. I'll be watching. Hackman. Everyone thinks they're lying and that it was a joke that backfired. People think they forged the sticky note too. My face when justice has been served. You wanted more? I answered the call. 2 weeks after the jocks wanna fuck incident. The school changed a lot of shit over summer. There's a new building for autists and tards. Nope.exe. Not even gonna set foot on the steps of it ever. Go to my first lesson. Midway through, I get called out by one of the social carers. Anon, you're good with it, right? Yeah, why? There is a technical problem in the social care building. Can you fix it? Great, I have to go and sort out the ton's technical issues. Turns out the techies are busy. Busy doing fuck all probably. Walk into the ton building. It reeks of shit and piss. Potato face autists look around at me, flailing their arms around. I'm led to the root of the problem. The DVD player isn't working. Tards went to watch Thomas the Tank Engine again. They watched it last night as an evening treat. Open up the DVD tray. Vomit.png. An autist or tard had, at some point between the previous night and at that moment, taken a shit in the disc tray. My hand is now covered in shit. I'm out. Go to the toilet to wash my hands. Decide to take revenge on these fucks. Break time. I'm behind in Tard Palace. Autists and tards go outside to play. Sneak inside and head to the Wi-Fi router. Autists and tards use iPads that are now connected to this router. Remove all the cables from the router and head to the toilets. Flush them all down a loo. Straight up throw the router out the window and into the woodland. Revenge complete. Walk outside for tards and autists to come back. Hear them go fucking berserk when they go in and can't get internet on their tablets. All I could hear is screeching and crying of those arseholes. Was it a dick move? Yeah. Was it worth it? Fuck yeah, it was. 1 month after the attack on the Tard Palace, techies had to buy a new router and cables for the Tards. People believe Hackman was behind it. They couldn't be more correct. Gotta study though, no more Hackman now until year 12/6th form. Or so I thought. There's a new villain in town. We'll call him the Drug Lord. He's the new kid at art school, and as you can guess, deals and does drugs. Teachers and police have no proof that he does, so he can't be arrested or tried. One day, I'm on the laptop after school, researching Nazi Germany for an upcoming exam. Get bored and decide to look at the CCTV footage. See the Drug Lord on one of the cameras. Switch cameras to see where he goes. Drug Lord arrives at a pond surrounded by bushes and trees. Ideal hotspot for druggers. Bunch of younger chaps and thoughts show up. Start filming the footage on my phone. Drug Lord gives kids weed and cocaine plus ISD. Kids hand him a handful of money. Start filming when they all leave. Connect my phone to the laptop via USB. Create a new email account for Outlook. hackman@outlook.com. Compose a new email, attach the footage, and send it off to the headmaster. We may have our differences, but I think you'll want this in order to get a drug-free school. Hackman. The next day, a police van is outside the reception of the building. The drug lord gets filmed being taken away. He gets interrogated and awaits his trial. Headmaster says, a former nuisance helped in the arrest, over public radio. Hackman's next stop, Hollywood. 2 weeks after the drug lord was arrested. Walking up to school. Get a call from Eddie. Dude, the drug lord is out. What? He got fucking bailed out, man. I want to kill myself, the JPEG. How the fuck did he get bail? I don't know, man. Very helpful. If a drug lord finds out I'm Hackman, I am truly fucked. People say that they've seen the drug lord around the school campus. He's looking for the headmaster, apparently. Find out that the drug lord is 18 and in year 13. I just need to seize an opportunity. Drug lord and headmaster have come face to face. Find the drug lord's phone number on the school system. Call him, asking him if he can hook me up with some good shit. Tell him to meet me by the sports hall after school. He agrees. 3 PM rolls around. Call up headmaster's phone pretending to be a parent. Says that there's a fight behind the sports hall. Says that he'll be right down. I watch from a safe distance. Drug lord sees the headmaster. Headmaster sees the drug lord. Who the fuck's your former nuisance then? Drug lord starts running towards the headmaster. Oh god, what have I done? Headmaster legs it. Drug lord gives chase. Other teachers see and go to aid of the headmaster. PE teachers try to take down the drug lord but fail. The drug lord runs into the woods and gets away. Police carry out a search party but don't find him. My person and I have an arch enemy in the form of a drug lord. 4 days after the great chase. Previous attempt at getting the drug lord arrested failed. Chilling out in the office playing Skyrim. Hear the door open. Turn around. Can you guess who it is? Oh, of course you can. The drug lord is pointing a knife at me. So I hear there's a hacking man in your school. I nod. You were tasked with finding him, I heard. Nod again. Then do it now or I'll cut you real bad, cunt. I try not to laugh. Drug lord is really not that intimidating. He has the chaviest accent I've ever heard. Plus, he has buck teeth and shitty clothes. Pretend to be tracing Hackerman. I've got him. He's in the storage room. Drug lord makes me lead him to the storage room. Unlock it. Point to the doorway on the right. He walks down it. Grab a plank of wood and hide it by the doorway, waiting for him to come back. Feel like I'm playing Hitman IRL. Turn and hit him in the face with the plank. He's knocked out. Call the police and tell them to get down to the school faster than fucking Sonic. They do so. Drug lord gets arrested, doesn't get bailed out, and better yet, is found guilty. Sentenced to 15 years in prison. Last I heard, he had a bad time in the showers. 4 months after the drug lord dropped the soap. Exams are nearly over. Haven't had time to be Hackman. I must end my career on the ultimate high note. Won't be coming back down here ever again. I caused the service to go down. What can top that? Remember the one that I've been saving since the beginning? Next day after last exam. People are all going home celebrating. Not Hackman. Head to the storage room and boot up laptop. Access the school system. Go to the headmaster's user space. Go to his videos folder. It's still there after all this time. WikiLeaks.jpg. It's time for Hackman's last strike. Open the video and broadcast it to every screen in the school. See students vomiting in the classroom near the storage room. Teacher gets a boner from watching the broadcast. The video is of the headmaster having a gangbang with the deputy headmaster and a bunch of the other teachers. All of those in the video were forced to resign by the school board later that day. My work as Hackerman is done. Take the laptop to the technician's building and leave a sticky note. Consider today's events a parting gift. Hackerman. I walk over to the horizon. And that, my friends, are my stories of my years as Hackerman. Be me, working at an engineering firm. In the big office. On our floor are like 20 cubicles with spaces for 2 desks, chairs, computers, etc, etc. Get paired with some bro Hispanic guy called Ricardo. 2 cubicles down is some fat feminine. How did this bitch even get this job? Anyway, filing a cost report on some water damage on a high-rise. Ricardo walks into the cubicle. Hey, Anon, come check this out! Go to him to feminist cubicle. No one's in there. Your computer is unlocked. Change your wallpaper to swastika, man. She'll go loco. Nah, man, I got a better idea. Watch my back, Rick. Download lots of fat-shaming pics from Google. Lots of shit on diabetes and harpoons and shit. Make one of those changing wallpaper things that changes the picture every 10 seconds or so. Set up 7 of these pics. Change the time it takes to go into sleep mode to 10 seconds. Invert mouse. Set mouse sensitivity to lowest. She's a tard. She'll never know how to fix it. Flip screen upside down to monitor. Run back to cubicle and try and be cool. She gets back 30 minutes later with her cubicle buddy. Hear her loudly say, "What the fuck?" She tells one of the techies and he laughs his ass off. She flips her shit. Trashes her fucking cubicle. Raging like a rodeo on bullshark testosterone. Boss comes in. Sees the damage. Nala, one more outbreak and you're fucking fired. You hear? She takes a week off. Funniest shit ever. Got more stories if anyone is interested. This one is about 6 months in. Sitting in cubicle with a coffee and making a timetable on Excel. Ricardo is off sick, so no funny times today. Nala, the famous shit, shoves her funny greasy face into my cubicle. Anon, I got a leaflet for you. Flicks her fat sausage fingers and a piece of paper lands on my desk. She waddles off down the aisle, lean over the wall and say to the guy in the cubicle behind me, Yo Drake, did Femme Fatale over there give you one of these? It's a crock of shit, don't even read it. Typical. Anyway, this stupid ass leaflet is talking about fairness in the workplace, and about how women should be given separate cubicles from men. What the fuck? Walk to my boss's office. Boss is pretty sweet with me, so he doesn't mind that I'm bothering him on his schedule. What's up, Anon? Has Nala given you one of these? I show him the leaflet. What the fuck? Anon, let me hold on to this. No problem. Timetable is almost done, by the way. Nice one. Get back to cubicle. Working away. Boss comes past a few minutes later. Walks into Nala's cubicle. At this point, everyone knows she's a retard and always in shit. And she always flips, so this is gonna be good. Boss says, Nala, what the fuck is this? Oh, just a little suggestion. A suggestion? You want to try and make a change to the department and don't even ask me? What the fuck do you need a separate cubicle for? Well, I don't feel comfortable around men in the same room. Rants on and on about my feelings and other shit. Turns out she was trying to hide a mini fridge in her cubicle, and her cubicle partner threatened to tell the boss. I got one more, the one where Ricardo gets fired. Alright, prepare your jimmies. Tuesday afternoon, midsummer, so it's boiling hot. Ricardo's mother had died 2 weeks before, so he wasn't in a joking mood. Pretty silent. Femi Fuck Fedderson sends out another department email. Department emails are usually reserved for crucial info and to flash on your screen so that you can't miss it. Attention accounting. I, along with several other women in the company, will be hosting an anti-discrimination meeting this Saturday at blah 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 street at 5 o'clock. It is compulsory to attend. Hear collective groan on the floor. Pretty sure I heard someone say, "Fuck off, cunt!" Ricardo stands up. We're not going to your fucking meeting, puta! Dead silence. Typing has stopped. You can hear a mouse fart on the street outside. That's how quiet it was. 10 seconds go past. Who the fuck said that? People are standing on their desks looking around. Hear the stomping of the elephant as she paces down towards her cubicle. I did, you fat whore! Ricardo walks out of the cubicle in front of her. She stares at him with eyes closely resembling the mad butcher that killed an Anon for fucking his daughter. She spits in his face. Dennis, the black guy 4 cubicles down, goes, Oh shit, man! You spick fuck. Ricardo goes full Aaron Hernandez. Never seen him so fucking angry. punches Fanny Fuck dead in the face with the force of 1,000 suns. Her nose cracks under his hairy Mexican fist. She falls over and almost causes an earthquake. Hear boss's door opening. She rolls around trying to get up. "You illegal fuck, I'll fucking kill you! I'm gonna fucking tell the cops you raped me! You're gonna get the injection, you fuck!" Ricardo rips off his tie. "You don't know me, you fuck! You fat bitch, no one likes to hear you! I will tell you to jump off the fucking roof, but you might kill 50 people!" Insert Spanish swear rant. Femme shit starts bawling her eyes out. Ricardo storms out. Police arrive 10 minutes later. Whole floor had to give a statement. Fatso McFucking cunt actually accused Sonia Ricardo of rape. Everyone on the floor liked Ricardo, so they told the cops it was bullshit, and she provoked him. Ricardo comes in the next day and starts collecting his things from his cubicle. Rick, man, yesterday had it coming for her. It's okay, man. Cops interviewed me yesterday. They know she called me a spick, so I think I'll be getting off the hook. I suppose that's good. It sucks you have to be fired. Hey, man, you've been a real good partner, man. See you around. Ricardo gives me a smile and leaves. Femme cunt doesn't come in for the rest of the week. See her on Monday. She has a gigantic fucking bandage around her face. Turns out he fractured her nose and her brow bone. Every time she walks into anyone else's cubicle, they picked up the phone and pretended to be congratulating Ricardo for his deeds. She quits after 3 weeks. I told the story of Ricardo to every new fag that joined the department. He was a hero in our company. That's the story of Senor Ricardo, greatest Mexican badass who ever lived. The ones I told are the most outrageous ones. There's a few here over general retardation, and Ricardo's antics. Be Friday, hour before time to go home and fap. This is 9 months before the Ricardo, the badass event. FemFat comes into our cubicle to ask me to print a document for her. Why can't you do it yourself? My printer only prints A4, I need regular paper. Ricardo spins around his swivel chair. It's the same fucking thing. There's no need to swear. She waddles off down the aisle. Ricardo turns to me and says, "Unfucking believable, man." Another one. Be Monday morning. Everyone is tired. No one more tired than Fam fucking Ham. Sunken eyes, bad makeup, the works. Ricardo sees her walk past. "Party hard, Nola, right?" She gives him daggers and carries on walking. Ricardo was generally the funny guy everyone had in their high school class. You could rely on him to make you laugh. He was bro as fuck too. I got drunk with him once. I ended up not knowing where I was. Ricardo paid for a taxi to take us to my address, then paid for his own cab back. God, I miss that magnificent fucker. Befriend a loner named Anthony in junior year to help me beat Halo. We beat Halo together in one Saturday on Xbox Live. Anthony is a cool kid. Glad I met him. Monday at school. Anthony sits across class.
Anon, we kicked ass on Xbox the other day, bro.
What? Oh, yeah, Anthony, we did.
Hey, do you play Call of Duty too?
Not the time for this, Anthony. Lol.
Yeah. That, do you have Borderlands?
Dude, not right now, please. Wait until lunch or something. Teacher sends him to the office for yelling in class. Passes my desk and says,
"Same time tonight?"
And winks and does the whole Shooter McGavin type thing. Drowned in embarrassment. Fast forward 3 years. We're still bros, and he just left for the Air Force. Be in senior year. Nothing to do on a Friday night. We're baked and it's 1 AM. Oh shit, the bowling alley is a cosmic bowling. Blacklight with strobe lights and faggy music for drunks and preteens. Head to the bowling alley. None of us pay, and just wait for one group of people to leave and continue. Free game for 2 hours when you sign up. Most people don't stay the whole 2 hours. See some soft-sized junior girls in the lane next to us. Ditch friends and go over to talk to them. Had been to a family thing before, where we all got together, so I was wearing some slacks and a blazer, tie and everything, looking dapper as fuck. Talking to girls, being handsome and charming. Start making out with one of the chicks. Solid 9 out of 10. Anthony comes up.
"Yo man, the bowling lane closed. Can I borrow $10?
So bro, I spent my last $20 on a dub. Girls, this is Anthony, my friend. Awkward greetings ensue. I continue sucking hot bitch's face off. Get a hand under her shirt and fondle her tits in the darkness. Anthony sits next to me. Starts telling me about his COD escapades.
"Last night we were playing on Karachi, and I was running around with a silenced UMP. Newbie, I know. But I raped dude. 54 kills and 3 deaths. I even got a nuke, but I waited till the end of the game to call it in."
Anthony is high as fuck. I'm high as fuck. He's killing my high. One of the girls say, "I think we should get going." My bitch gives me a "sorry, but I have to" face and leaves. Turn around to punch Anthony in the stomach. Still got a number. We had sex the next weekend after a date. B17. First time getting high. Anthony is there. Anthony takes a massive hit from Gravity Bomb. After coughing for 3 minutes, he says,
I don't think I'm high.
and takes another to the head. We all laugh because we know it takes a few minutes to set in. 10 minutes later, Anthony lights his armpit hair on fire with a lighter. 50 minutes after that, he lights his eyebrow on fire. We swap the lighter out of his hand before he actually gets it close enough to burn him. Find out friend Ben told Anthony to light his armpit on fire, and he didn't, and then bet him $5 that he wouldn't burn his eyebrow off. We all laugh and continue being fucked up. Coming down from a high, about an hour and a half later, see Anthony and Ben walk out of the hallway laughing. Ben in tears, holding his side laughing. Anthony comes into the light, and he doesn't have an eyebrow. Everyone in the room starts crying, laughing. All of us on the floor laughing so hard it hurt. He shaved off his eyebrow for half a gram of weed. That feel when we all see him at school the next day, and he had his sister draw on an eyebrow with her makeup. But you could tell. You could so fucking tell. Be senior year, hanging out with group at lunch. When you buy lunch at the school, they always give you a fruit to promote healthy lifestyle. Anthony buys lunch and gets a big ass orange. Puts orange in pocket for later. All of a sudden, a ton of band geeks run out from a few classrooms and gather in the middle of the quad. They take out their instruments and start playing jazz and shit. Anthony walks up to me as I'm watching and leans over and says,
I'm gonna hit the faggot with the trumpet.
Ginger kid with the curly hair playing the trumpet recognized him as the kid Anthony who fought and beat the shit out of him during the PE in freshman year. Fuck it, man. Do it. To clarify, we were probably half a football field away from where they were playing, and how they were set up, they were looking to our right, all in line, Ginger kid closest to us. 2 seconds later, he reels his arm back and throws the orange fucking Hail Mary. Hits the ginger kid in the face. To something like... Ginger kid clearly confused. Laugh hardest I've ever laughed in my life, both at what just happened and the sound the trumpet made when the orange made contact with the ginger's face. Look over at Anthony and he's not there. Parking lot is to our left, probably 200 yards away. I look over and Anthony is running like a gazelle towards his truck. Laugh even harder. Principal, school security, and like 20 teachers come over to tell us to all go to the office. All of us being 9 other people from our group. Ask us who threw the orange. All of us lied and said we didn't know. No cameras are pointed to where we were hanging out, which is why we hang out there, because some of the kids in our group are really ballsy enough to smoke weed and pot and cigarettes at lunch. Anthony comes back after school to give me a ride home that day. Was late to school. Got a ride from a neighbor because my car wouldn't start. Laughed the whole way home. My first and the last thing he said to me was,
Did you hear the sound the trumpet made when the orange hit him?
Laughed so hard my abs are sore the following day. Continuation from the first high with Anthony. Anthony blames for his second time off of gravity bong hits. Someone says we should go to McDonald's. Anthony's eyes light up like a sun. He looks at me, and in a quiet voice,
Anon, can we please go to McDonald's? Please?
I'm designated high driver all the time. Blasting Bohemian Rhapsody, because who fucking hasn't done that with a parked car? Get out, Anthony buys the 20-piece McNugget, and I just get a McGangbang. Anthony finally gets his meal, stoned to pieces. Picks up the nuggets and stares at it for a good 30 seconds. I'm standing across from him and his eyes are watery. Think that it's just his high. And look down to make combine with my McChicken and McDouble. Look up, and after I take a bite, Anthony has just taken his first bite of his McNugget. He sets the half-eaten McNugget down, wipes his mouth with a napkin, and looks into my eyes. With a straight voice, he says,
This is the best thing I've ever eaten.
A tear rolls down his fucking cheek. Laughed my ass off over this stoned white fool, crying over his McNuggets. He proceeds to finish the rest of his McNuggets. He finishes them all, and by this point he's sobbing with a mouthful of chicken McNuggets, open mouth, chewing and crying at the same time. He suddenly looks up at me, sees me laughing my ass off, and makes him laugh. He laughs at me so hard, the McNuggets in his mouth come flying at me like North Korea's IMCBMs.
I'm sorry.
He grabs a napkin and leans over the table and begins to wipe me off. Get the fuck off, dude. I go to the bathroom and clean myself up the best I can. I come back out, but he's already eating the rest of my hamburger, looking like a fucking Smeagol. All of my friends are laughing. Bunch of friends hanging out. Anthony isn't there yet. We decide to get him drunk off his ass. We rig a shots game. Anthony gets there, and I'm at the table waiting for him to go to his side to take shots. His glasses are full up Jack. Mine has apple juice, but it's too dark in our friend Larry's backyard, so he can't tell. Friend counts to 3, and we both start downing drinks. I know Anthony has never been drunk before, and I told my friends before he got here. I get to 5, and he's struggling with 3, saying it burns. All of us call him a pussy, and he gets mad, looks me dead in the eye, and gives me the stink eye. Finishes the rest of his shots, not taking his eyes off me. He finishes, and I have 3 left. He says,
Drink up, bitch!
I laugh and drink 2 more, and slide a 10th one across the table to him. He tries to be defiant, and picks it up and gulps it back. Notices his apple juice. Looks at me with the biggest face of horror I've ever seen. We found out he passed out in the bathroom throwing up. He wasn't as funny as we thought he would be, because all he did was fucking run around telling everyone how fucking good he is at Call of Duty. Anthony has a pool. We decided to party at his house because his mum is cool with alcohol, so as long as we stay there. His pool is ungodly deep, like 12 foot or something. We're chilling in the hot tub, smoking a blunt, and we notice Anthony isn't around. Friend Jack says Anthony went inside to get something. Anthony's bedroom window overlooked the pool on the 2nd story of his house. We all watch as Anthony bangs on his window, laughing at us to open the window. He's cross-faded as fuck, and climbs out onto the roof.
Hang on! Ben! Jack! Guys! I'm gonna jump!
His mum hears him screaming, and comes out the back door and sees him. Anthony, you get your ass off that roof and get back inside, now!
Haha! Fuck you, bitch!
It's that amazingly well-rehearsed Eric Cartman impression.
I do what I want!
Goes to jump and slips. Body slams into the pool and sinks. We all get out, run to the side of the pool and look in. He's at the bottom, looking up at us, smiling. He's probably still 5 feet underwater, and we see him throw up in the pool. He freaks out, still underwater, seeing his throw up, and swims like a retard eel to avoid his throw up. Swims all the way to the other side to get out.
How big was my splash?
Fucking Anthony. Be in math class, senior year. Anthony has a class across the entire school this period. Middle of class, Anthony rushes into my classroom, laughing his ass off. Teacher angrily yells,
Get out of my classroom!
Anthony looks at him and says,
1 sec.
and goes to my desk, laughing his ass off. He gets close, so no one can hear him, and he says,
Dude, go to the bathroom in the west wing. Trust me.
laughing at how random this is, and nod and say, alright, I'll go in a few minutes after you leave. Teacher calls the office, telling them that some kid barged in his class and won't leave. Anthony does his gazelle run out of the class and back towards his. Asks teacher to use the bathroom. Go to the west wing. Feel like something isn't right. Walk into the bathroom and become instantly overwhelmed with the smell of shit. Still laughing my ass off, with my shirt pulled up over my nose. Walk into the stall, expecting to see huge shit. Nothing. Begin to walk out, and see a shit in the urinal. Part of shit hanging over the side. Laugh so fucking hard I begin to cry. Anthony has been 70% of the cries in my entire lifetime. Turn 360 degrees and start running out of the bathroom. See something in the sink. Anthony shit in the urinal and 2 sinks. Oh my god, this kid don't give. Go back to class, laughing hard as fuck. Fucking Anthony. Anthony is in my pre-calculus class in senior year. Bored in class, already got in trouble 3 times that day for getting up and talking to Anthony. Anthony very obviously bored too, sighing all the time, fidgeting, doesn't handle boredom very well. He sits in the back in a corner alone because he talks too much. Teacher turns the light off and starts playing a short movie for the last 30 minutes of class because that's what we do on Fridays. 15 minutes in, I look back at Anthony, see something moving, and notice that he has a backpack hanging off his desk to cover up anyone looking at what he's doing. He's been caught before playing Pokemon in class as a senior, lol. Sneak out of my chair and sneak to the back of the class to try and talk to him. Get a bit closer and see that he's moving pretty fast. What the fuck is he doing? Get closer, realize he's masturbating, let out a loud ass and fall on my ass laughing. He whips his hand out of his pants with the speed of a gazelle and gives me a deer in the headlights look, meanwhile laughing my ass off on the ground. Can't see straight. Get back to my chair, and my teacher sends me out of class. Fucking Anthony. Pick related. It's his old Facebook picture from years ago. Be end of junior year. Have to turn books back into the library. Me and Anthony, last time in the lineup to turn books in. While waiting in the line, he pulls out a condom from his back pocket. Lol, what the fuck are you doing? Just looks at me, doesn't say anything. Opens up the condom and shakes it, and spits in it so hard it looks used. Ties a no in the end of it, and puts it back in his pocket, doing that shoot at me Gavin wink. We go to place our books in the back storeroom, where they keep all the books. And opens up a random book and puts the condom in. 2 kids come back in, pale as fuck. Looks embarrassed as hell. Oh my god, he didn't, or JPEG. Asked the kid what happened, and he looks at me, disgusted, and said, "Someone put a fucking used condom in my library book, and the principal thought it was me." Laugh in his face, and go to high-five Anthony, discreetly. Thanks, he's a fucking gem of a friend. He's had my back for so long as I can remember. I'm gonna miss him. A part of my childhood is gone with him. Be hanging out with Anthony. Just 2 of us alone after school one day, in the pizza parlor. We're sitting at a table, chilling, and 2 girls from school come in and sit behind us, with their backs to us. Anthony laughs and says, "Hang on." He crawls under the table, and lays on his back, and scoots under the girls' table. I see a flash in my peripheral vision, and the girls scream. The girls start kicking Anthony under the table, and he can't get out. I get up and lift the table, and throw it onto the floor, a few feet away. Pull Anthony up, and we run out of the fucking place. We're both laughing. The girls throw their pizza at us. We get outside a few hundred yards away, behind the building, and Anthony has a bruising eye, and his lip is bleeding. He looks at me, wipes the blood off and smiles, and says, "I fucking forgot to turn the flash off." He shows me a picture, and he managed to get a picture up one of the girls' skirts. No nudity, but we cherish that picture forever. Me and Anthony have PE together in junior year. He always has one of those metal water bottle things, has water every day. We're in the locker room, changing, and he tells me he forgot something in his locker outside. Asked me to watch his stuff. For sure, bro. I've had 3 Viagra tablets in my wallet for 2 weeks, after I heard him say he loves watching girls run at PE every fucking day. I'm devious. Drop 3 tablets in his water bottle, shake it up, and send it back down. He comes back, and we go to PE. We have to run around the school twice. Keep glancing at him while he's running, waiting for him to react. All of a sudden he says, "Shit, dude, I'm getting a boner." Don't worry, you're running. It will probably go away in a second. We end up catching up to a group of girls, and we can't get around them because they've all made a line. Doesn't matter, it's a good opportunity to rest a bit and catch out a breath. Fuck, dude, it won't go away. I'm just gonna have to flip it under my belt. Lol, okay. We run past the girls, and I tell him last one to the starting line is a faggot, and I start sprinting. As you know, Anthony does not back down to a challenge, and he races past me with his gazelle speed, his boner bouncing back and forth, left and right, and his short elastic shorts. Bust a gut laughing, trying to keep up. He rounds a corner, still sprinting, and I see his boner sticking out the front end as he runs. Girls. "Oh my god, Anthony has a boner! Look! Look! Do you see it? He has a boner! Oh my god!" Anthony gets to the racing line. A bunch of the other people who already finished are waiting there, laughing because of Anthony's boner. I catch up, and Anthony's yelling, "Hey, fuck you! At least I'm not ashamed of it. I'm like you, pencil dicks." Teacher was there the whole time. Anthony proudly walks to the bathroom with his boner still out, staring at people as he walks away. In tears, works so much better than I could have hoped. Anthony never comes out of the bathroom. Go to my next class, which was pre-count class. He comes in halfway through the class. Everyone in the class already knows what happened. He looks at me. "I had to fucking jack off forever in the bathroom because it wouldn't go down." Lol forever in my seat. Corner of my eye, see him adjust his pants all period because his boner kept coming back. Fucking Anthony. In our group, we had a fat midget friend named Roll. We're high, in a Walmart one day, just walking around. Anthony gets a cart and makes the midget get in. Anthony gives him a car steering wheel cover and makes him hold it and pretend he's in a race car. Anthony proceeds to sprint down with the midget in the cart, picking up speed in the store and running full sprint down the aisles with the midget. We all laugh, but are too stunned to do anything, and we hear through the store a little midget crying, "Help! Dude! Stop! Stop! Slow down! Slow down! Dude! Let me out!" Anthony's high as fuck, having the time of his life. Anthony decides that once he reaches the main big aisle in the middle, he wants to let go. We come out just in time to see him launch the cart midget down the long-ass aisle, going a good 15 miles an hour. The cart goes until it hits a clothes rack, almost the other end of the store. We see the midget fly out, 4 feet in the air, and roll. He runs out the door, and we all run out back to my car and pile in and drive off. I will never forget the pure look of glee on Anthony's face when he ran back to us after letting the midget fly. I have them all saved on a notepad now, and I'll make or contribute them on B in the future. Everyone deserves to hear the tale of Anthony. Be in Target on one of our many high adventures. With about 4 people, all of us just blindly walking around. Realize we haven't seen Anthony in forever. Begin to half-heartedly look around in the store for him. Intercom goes off.
Security to the bike section?
All of us look at each other and laugh and run towards where the bikes are, Before we can move 10 feet, Anthony comes riding out of an aisle on a beach cruiser. Races past us yelling,
"We're gonna fight for our right to party!"
Rides a bike around the store in a big circle, and we wait by the exit. He sees us and fucking does some ninja move and hops off the bike, but pushes it forward as he does, so the bike keeps rolling. He runs out of the exit behind us, and we pile on in the Accord and peel out of there. Try to go back again a year later. We get stopped after we're in the store for about 3 minutes by security, and he tells us we're on the list of people not to let back in the store. We're all high. We're just boxed in my car, and we're hungry as fuck. At about 11 PM, Anthony says,
"Hey, drive back to Taco Bell real quick. I want to try something."
Now, when Anthony gets drunk or high, his vocal communication skills become severely fucked up. Listening to him is like audio dyslexia, sometimes. So, that's what makes the next part amazing. We drive up to the Taco Bell, and Anthony rolls down his window, sitting behind me in the back. Lady asks what she can get for us. Anthony says,
"Hi, we're from San Diego,
we live in North California.
and we took a road trip to Washington. And, well, we kind of messed up on our funds, and we have no money left. So, last time we ate was at 7 this morning, and we've been driving ever since. We still have about 8 hours to get to San Diego, and we're really hungry. We were wondering if you had any food you could spare us so we don't go hungry. We've tried Carl's Jr., McDonald's, Wendy's, and everywhere nearby, but with no help."
The lady says, "Let me ask my manager." The manager comes to the window and says, "Here you go, you guys. Hope you get home safe." That feel when 10 free tacos to split with 4 people. Anthony insisted we drive to all other fast food places and do the same. That night we ended up with 10 tacos, 4 cheeseburgers, Carl's Jr., 4 free sodas, Wiener Schnitzel, and 4 frosty things from Dairy Queen. Anthony was a hero that night. A few miles from where we lived was a pretty dense forest, where we would always arrange airsoft capture the flag matches with local kids there. We would pick a spot for a flag and plant it there. Actual flag, like 6 foot tall. And we designed our own team emblem on a cloth and tied it to it. We would always play at night with tactical flashlights and camo and everything. Anthony was always my wingman, and since he played Call of Duty like a fucking madman, he was naturally good at airsoft. We lay on the ground behind some bushes, and Anthony says,
"These kids fucking suck."
I agree, and we move closer. There's one kid in a pine tree about 15 feet up with a rifle watching the flag. Another kid with a rifle prone about 20 feet behind their flag, crouched behind a log, aiming at their flag. Anthony tells me to wait until he sends me a text message. I could feel my phone vibrate, and at the moment I felt the text, shoot the guy in the tree. I wait about 2 minutes, I feel my phone vibrate, and I take the guy in the tree out. I could hear the most primal war cry ever from Anthony, and see like 4 flashlights shine at him. He's butt-ass naked, holding the flag with one hand and a pistol in the other, and he runs from their flag point all the way back to ours, shooting other kids. He makes it back to our base with a good 50 airsoft bullet bruises and marks, a few bleeding, out of breath, and carrying the heavy-ass flag in one hand the whole time. The other kids come running up yelling, "We shot him like 100 times! He's out!" Anthony gets mad and yells,
"I ran naked with it! We win!"
One of the other faggots shoots Anthony in the head with his gun. We look at angry and drop our guns and rush the faggot. Anthony beats the shit out of him and steals his airsoft gun, lol. The other kid yells at us, calling us a cheater and fags and whatever. We all know who won, because Anthony's bullshit tactics, but it was amazing regardless. We go back home, drink a ton of Jack and Morgan, smoke an eighth, and fall asleep rested, and happy as fuck as can be. Anthony and I decide to go driving late at night one day. For the fuck of it. Anthony loves it when I drive him around, and he yells at the window at people. We're doing the usual, and he's yelling at random people walking by. The ones I remember is the best is,
"Go fuck yourself, baby toucher!" And, "Your mama's a dirty cunt, you dog blower!"
He tells me to stop off at his house, which at the time was only a few blocks away. He comes back out of his house with some water balloons. Ah, sweet. We're gonna throw some water balloons at people. He tells me he's pissed in 4 of them. Fuck yes, even better. He's also bought a water gun thing. He throws the pee balloons at people, and I make sure we go slow so we can hear the reactions. Unfortunately, no one noticed it was pee until we were gone, but lols ensued. We saw an old couple, probably 70 years old, walking downtown, and I knew he wanted to. No, dude, they're old.
"I give 2 fucks. Go out to slow. I'm hitting that bitch in the face."
I drove slowly, and he lets loose a torrent from his water gun, blows the lady off her feet and she falls down. The man gets angry and runs up to the car. only 4 feet away or so, and he grabs the water gun. These people weren't 70, they were like 40. The dude grabs the gun and sprays the inside of my car with water, plus piss squirt gun juice. I step on the gas and get the hell out of there because I smell piss and my car is a rolling urinal. Anthony's laughing his ass off.
I hit the bitch!
And then he grabbed my shoulders and made me look at him and stared into my soul and said,
And she fell down!
We laughed, smelling like piss, all the way back to my house, where we showered, tried to clean up the piss out of my car. And then we played Call of Duty until 6 AM. Hanging out with Anthony one night. Didn't have weed or alcohol, so we were sober unfortunately. My house is only a little bit away, where the district keeps their school buses. Me and Anthony both ride the bus to school, but separate buses sometimes. He says,
Dude, let's go slash all the tires of all the buses in the district, and tomorrow, when the buses don't pick us up, we can stay home all day.
actually sounds like a good plan. I was down, and the district was close enough so that I knew where everything was and where the buses were. We can't hop the fence because of the barbed wire, but we just pull the bottom up and crawl under. We start slashing the tires of maybe 20 buses there, all 4 tires on each bus, and it breaks a couple windows. We see a golf cart looking security thing coming up and we dip, go back under the gate and go to my place. He ends up staying the night, and we plan to go to the same bus tomorrow if they do come. We wake up and the next morning go to the bus stop. The bus is 20 minutes late and I get a call from my mom. The buses were vandalized last night and the buses won't be here to pick you up. Want me to take you guys? Tell her no, Anthony's mum will drive us. We stake out my house until my mom leaves, and then we chill at my place and drop some cash for a dump together. We get high until 8 AM and stay high until about 4 PM, playing video games and swimming. Around 5 my mum comes home, we meet up with my other friends. Come back to my place, swim until about 10, and then we all smoke some more. It was a good day. Anthony has the best ideas. Wait, I lied. He tried to break the windows with a brick, but they were too strong. He broke the windows of a few vans that the schools use for teams to go to different countries and stuff. I was on the bus with Anthony one day after I spent the night at his house. In the back of the bus, he asked me if I've seen Napoleon Dynamite. Of course.
Remember the part where he tied a string to Superman and dangled him out of the bus window?
I laughed and said yeah. He pulls out a condom, and like the last condom story, spits in it to make it look used, and puts a fish hook through it, and has about 50 feet of line. We open up the windows at the back of the bus, and he flings the condom out the back, and holds it up into a string, so it's flying in the air. He manages to slap the condom on the windshield of the minivan behind us, and you can hear the squelch as it makes its hit. The mom and son is furious, pulls over in front of the bus, and stops in front of it, making the bus stop too. She walks up to our window, with the condom in napkins, and throws the condom in the back and side at Anthony, and starts to turn away. My face and he throws it back out, and it lands in her hair, and she freaks out, and yells at him, before getting in her car and driving off. The whole time the bus driver was having a fit about not being able to pass her due to traffic, and Anthony got suspended when he got to school lol. One day, Anthony and I make weed brownies. We share them amongst the group and everyone thinks they're fucking bomb. Me and Anthony rejoice. Fuck yeah, we did good. Anthony says that we should make some weed brownies and leave them in plastic containers around the school with a sign that says, "Just take one please." Dude, yes, holy fuck. Long story short, we do it. He leaves it in the middle of a quad next to a group of girls, so it looks like the girls are the ones giving out free brownies. There were like 6 weed brownies, and probably 20 regular brownies. End of lunch, all the brownies are gone. Before the end of the day, police are all over, and they have a K9 unit sniffing everyone's lockers. I guess some people ate the weed brownies and started getting sick and shit in class. Anthony never got caught, and many laws were had, as the next few weeks police would randomly come in and K9 search the lockers. Anthony has one of those really expensive remote control airplane things that goes super fast. One day, he breaks it, and knows that it won't last much longer. He asks what he can do to make its last flight epic. I suggest that he buys a dildo and straps it to the plane and ram it into someone. We agree this is the best thing to do. Anthony orders a big black dildo on Amazon. We wait for it to come in. 5 days later, we're at his house after school. We duct tape this 10-inch dildo to the other side of the plane. This plane flies fucking awkward as fuck, as we have to reposition it a million times in the right spot, or it doesn't make the plane fly like Helen Keller behind the controls. Start flying it, and think our best bet is down the park, where there are always people. We send the plane off in a spot where no one can see the dildo, and Anthony flies it overhead a bit. The dildo weighs too much, and it's not going high or fast enough. Big remote control plane with an obvious big flappy dildo is flying 15 feet off the ground in a crowded park with the soccer games and children flying. Plane finally crashes anticlimactically and doesn't hit anyone, but a huge Rottweiler grabs a hold of it and runs off with it into a grassy field. The owner catches the dog and yanks it out of its mouth and freaks out, throwing the dildo away from him. The dog runs against it and continues running around with all the kids with the dildo flopping around. We were perched at the top of a playground where we could see everything. Shit was pretty funny. Anthony had one of these gas-powered remote control cars. This one, too, is breaking, and he plans on buying a new one anyway. Anthony decided it'd be funny to strap a Roman candle onto the race car during the football game. Our friend Ben goes to the car and sets the car on the ground a bit away from the stands and lights the fuse. Anthony is sitting on the stands, shielded behind the rest of our friends, and he starts controlling the race car. Race car zooms down the track where the runners compete. The Roman candle starts firing into the stands. People scream in panic. Everyone is chaotic, rushing to get out of there. It's only like 8 balls of fire. No one got hurt. No one caught on fire. Whole stadium is cleared out. The game is paused and the police show up. We think we're fucked, and we're going to get searched, but there's too many people to search. We end up leaving without getting caught. We got high later, and Anthony lit his neighbor's tree on fire with another Roman candle. We were lit, so it took us forever to find the hose and to turn it on to put the tree out. By the time we did, the tree was half blackened. My first thing the next morning, the neighbors were outside looking at the tree with the greatest what the fuck expression on their face. Anthony's mum covered for us and said some kids ran up and lit it on fire last night. She put it out with the hose when she saw it with the light on her window. Anthony's mum was a boss. Anthony's roof, on the very top of his 2-story, provides an awesome look over a pretty busy street in our town. A lot of people walk on that street between like 5 PM and 8 PM. Me and Anthony would always climb on the top of his roof with his guns. They were like airsoft guns, but a lot heavier, and they shot metal BBs. I guess kinda like a pellet gun, but they wouldn't break the skin or anything. They just stun like a bitch and traveled farther than those shitty plastic BBs. We were on his roof, and we shot people, and then ducked below the top of the roof. Anthony wants to take it a step further, brings a pillowcase full of rocks. Laugh my ass up and sit back. This one is all yours, bro. He starts throwing rocks at cars. Breaks the window of a really nice Camaro driving by. Camaro slams on the brakes and causes a 4-car collision on the busy road, bumper to bumper, like 5 cars total. Oh shit, oh shit, oh shit. We get inside the house and peek out the window. Cops everywhere searching for kids throwing rocks. Anthony is a ballsy motherfucker, because the moment the cops left, he went back out on the roof and started throwing rocks at people again. Didn't break any of our windows, but hit a bitch in the head with a pretty good sized one. That fear when people get hit with rocks, but don't see anyone around who could have thrown it, and kept walking forward confused, like nothing happened. The best part about his roof is that he has a gazebo kind of thing that connects to the roof, and the gazebo reaches right up to the edge of the fence. Countless times Anthony's been high, drunk, or faded, and stood on that gazebo late at night and pissed on people as they walked by. There's a big tree in front of the gazebo on both sides, so you can't see Anthony until he's right above you, and by then it's too late. He drops his pants like fucking Butters from South Park while he's drunk as fuck, and just lets loose all of his pent up bear piss. He's pissed on us from the top of the gazebo too. He's like a fucking covert ops R. Kelly. Thankfully, he's only pissed on us a few times, and other people on the street get a golden shower a lot more. Fucking Anthony. One time, Anthony invited me snowboarding with him and his family. We soon learned that snowboarding is hard as fuck, and gave up after a few hours of eating cold shit. We walked back to Anthony's family Jeep to warm up, and noticed they had some white rope. I asked Anthony if he wanted to take the white rope, hide behind trees, and hold the rope tight as people went down the slope. Of course he agreed, and we went back up the ski lift, with the ropes in the jacket. About halfway down the mountain, we got off, and walked separate ways behind trees. When I was there I thought, shit, if someone hits the rope, we'll probably get pulled with them. So I tied my rope to the tree. I gave Anthony a thumbs up, telling him I was ready, and he pulled the rope tight. First guy to come down was a 40-something Chinese dude on skis. Hits the rope and not only keeps going after joking for a second, but Anthony is holding onto the rope and starts sliding down the hill after him. The snow was hard packed to begin with, and was a pretty busy day, so the wind and snowproof jacket kept him on top, and he slid down after the dude, who fell a little bit after. Lols were had. I ended up getting into a yelling fight with the angry Chinese guy. After that, he decided he didn't want to do the rope thing anymore. I think the worst thing me and Anthony have done together was break into someone's house. Anthony knows the kid he dislikes. He knows he has an Xbox and a ton of games. Ask him if I want to come with him. Kind of scared, but Anthony won't let me live it down if I bitched out. Anthony already knows everything there is to know about shit and tells me the plan. The kid was an only child, living with his mum who was single. The kid went to school the same time as us, and the mum didn't get home until after 4. So we had from 8 to 4ish to do it, but it was sketchy because of the daytime. We go in from the back, and their back door was unlocked. It's a pretty nice town, so not a lot of people lock their doors. Go in, and Anthony goes straight to the kids' room, puts his Xbox in his backpack, and takes all of his games. I don't know what the fuck to steal, so I went to the kitchen and started opening cupboards and drawers and shit. Stole a pair of scissors and an old army knife, which probably belonged to his grandfather. Lost the knife like a month ago when we were playing in the forest. I was pissed. I kept going through the cupboards and found $10 in one of the drawers where they kept the passports and stuff. His mum's room had a drawer of a bunch of condoms, so we took it, lol. In the end, Anthony made it with an Xbox and like 6 games. I had $10, 40 condoms, scissors, and a cool knife. There were always lots of wildlife around the town. We would always go hunting with our pellet guns in the forest nearby. Squirrels and shit mostly. Some birds sometimes. We never really took our stuff home, and we just left shit when we shot it, lol. Anthony killed a raccoon once, only time I've ever seen a raccoon there, and he took it home. And at school that night, we put it in someone's locker. The lockers at our school were really easy to break into. You just needed a crowbar, and any kind of thing that popped right open. So people never left anything valuable in there, just their books. He hangs the raccoon up on the hook that people have for their coats and shit. Go to school the next day. Everyone crowded around locker. It smells pretty bad. Locker had been sitting in the heat for a good 5 hours before being opened by one of the janitors. It smelled like shit. Raccoon juice everywhere, because where he hung it up on the rack, he had to cut it to hook the skin over. Speaking of lockers, always had lots of fruit trees that people had growing. One day, a group of us guys, maybe 4 or 5 of us, filled a bunch of pillowcases with fruit trees from all houses in the neighborhood. Lemons and oranges mostly. We broke open one locker and put all the oranges and lemons in it. It was hard as fuck to keep them all in. We managed to get all 5 pillowcases worth of fruit into this tall locker without any spilling out. I wish I could see the kid's face when he opened up the locker and 400 things of fruit spilled out around him and everyone. I was browsing B one day when I came across a picture of a dude that tied a frog to balloons and let it go. Anthony thought it was funny, asked if I wanted to try it with him. I said sure. We went to one of the creeks nearby and got a frog, and the hardest part was finding balloons in the middle of bumfuck nowhere. We didn't have helium, so I ended up spending too much fucking money on happy birthday balloons from some store. We tied the frog to balloon and let him go. It was pretty funny, since we were high. Not too long after, the balloons popped. It wasn't a really windy day, so the balloons popped only a little bit away from us where we were. We saw the frog fall and land in a grassy field a couple 100 feet away from where we ran over. The grass is pretty tall, maybe 4 inches high or so, and we looked for a little bit, hoping to find the frog. Anthony found the frog still alive, hopping in the grass. At least we thought it was a frog, and it looked like it. We couldn't fathom another frog being there, since it's such an unusual place for a frog to be. Anthony decided to keep his astronaut frog and kept it in a tank, feeding it crickets and shit. The frog died about a month later. Sad day for all. One day, we were at the movies. Anthony wants us to sit up the back where the projector shows the film. The whole film is doing hand puppets and shadows and shit. He stops after about 20 minutes. Me and a few friends move further up to chat up some girls, because the movie was balls. 10 minutes later, we see silhouettes of a dick on the screen. He starts thrusting his hips. We all look back at him, laughing our asses off. And we can't see him because it's so bright light behind him. We just see a shadow of his thrusting boner in and out of frame for a solid minute. He stops abruptly, puts his dick back in his pants, sits back down and says, "Continue." Theodore laughs and continues watching the movie. Why the fuck would anyone do this? Halloween and senior year. Anthony dresses up as Ash Ketchum. Pretty much just red hat, blue shirt, and a bunch of painted rocks that he threw on the ground, saying, "I choose you!" Or whatever. I was a hobo. We went trick-or-treating for the first time in years because, why not? Free candy. Go to one guy's house. He's giving out bags of beef jerky. We're blazed, so beef jerky sounds amazing. We wait 5 minutes and then switch costumes. We go back up and get more beef jerky. Wait 5 minutes, switch up costumes again. This time exchanging pieces. I'm a hobo with a red hat. Anthony is wearing a blue t-shirt with a straw hat and a stick with a bag tied on the end. Dude, we look like fucking retards. Who cares, dude? Beef jerky. The dude answers the door. Look, I know you're the same 2 kids that have been coming up to the door the past 30 minutes. No other kids are even coming out this late. Just take the rest. Turns out he worked at a processing place or something for beef jerky and was able to take home. And he had never eaten them, so we had tons. We had like 10 bags of beef jerky, and then throw up later, and then eat more. Beef jerky was the shit. I'd rather get beef jerky than candy for Halloween. Tard Stories thread? Tard Stories thread. Work as a janitor for a high school. Nice school to work for. Then, one day, the school gets a downy kid named Jerry. Jerry is rude, messy, and always himself when startled. He seems to be every single time you speak to him. School's out and I'm mopping the floors. Jerry comes waddling around the corner and sees me. I see him. He points at me and laughs, then scuttles away. Next day, after school, cleaned the bathrooms on the upper floor. I just finished and left when I hear a loud crash and glass breaking. Oh hell no, .avi. Jerry and one other tard kid are trashing the bathroom. Garbage cans, mirrors broken, stool doors ripped off the hinges, and a fucking sink ripped out of the wall. My face went, it's war. Continuation of tard generator war. The other janitors and maintenance crew notice the little fuck nugget too. We begin calling Jerry and the tard he's friends with Gimpy and the Stain. Jerry always ships himself Stain, and the tard kid he's with always drags 1 foot Gimpy. Well, after a school dance, I notice Gimpy, but not Stain. Look around, I spy Jerry dragging a trash can up to Gimpy. Gimpy grabs it, and using his tard strength of 1,000 derps, proceeds to hurl it into a fucking light fixture above them, shattering it into pieces. Then, the duo proceeds to run around the hall screeching and whooping. My face went. Part 3. At this point, it's 2-0, and I need to get the little bastard back. I noticed that he's always in the art room after school, where one of the hot teachers are always late. Following him, I noticed that he's attempting to flirt with her, leaning in to smell her butt as she picks up the trash around her room. When he's about to ask her something, I barge in and tell her one of the assistant admins needs her. He gives me a little hate-filled look as I smile and wave, walking away with my broom across my shoulder. A minor victory. The next day, I noticed that it is the last lunch of the day. Watch him wander outside with the rest of the tards to do outdoor exercises. I calmly walk out there and inspect the lawn, then chat up with the tard guards. When they call them all back, Jerry spies me and takes off in the opposite direction. I turn the sprinklers full force. Jerry is now running around the field, screaming in his language, all while pointing at me and blubbering. All fucking well, his tard guard and I watched him full force faceplant into a goalpost and then try stand up in the mud. With the score 2-1, I needed to figure out something else. Jerry was prone to masturbating furiously and then raging hardcore, even if he sensed a banana or heard the word banana. When he sets his lunch down and goes to get a drink, I wandered up and replaced his food with the bananas of all kinds. Mashed, peeled, unpeeled, pickled, and rotten. Then walk away. I watch as he walks up, looks around, then starts screeching and flailing his arms wildly, knocking his tard guard to the ground and doing some sort of ritual that involves humping the table. Then he spots me. Oh fuck, .avi. My face went. He full on charges at me. Fortunately, I just mopped the floor in front of me. He proceeds to slip, fall down, and then slip-slide his way down the hallway where the Wranglers secured him. Now, at 2-2, we were even. I was willing to let it go now and leave him alone for good. But no, Gimpy and the Stain had another plan cooked up. On the last week of school, they stayed after. I was too busy to help the drama department move shit off the stage, so they didn't destroy the lights. As I was busy, they snuck into one of the janitorial closets and shit in the mop bucket, filling it with water, and then using 2 mops to smear the shit water all over the nice clean hallway. As I'm rounding the corner, an awful, soul-killing stench wafts from his direction. What in God's name, .avi? Run around the corner to see the 2 smearing shit down the hallway and splattering it onto the walls and the lockers. They see me, reach down to the bucket and grab mounds of shit. Then they try to charge me. It seems they forgot they'd used shit water on the floor and it was still wet. They both slipped and fell into their own mess, tried to get up and slipped again. I was trying best not to burst up from laughter, as Gimpy was having a full-on fit, just shaking on the ground and screeching. Stain was riding around and crying/spinning, looking like a top he was going around so fast. My face swam. I called up the administrators and the school police officer, but they didn't respond. I called up a few other janitors who were horrified at this scene. They helped me unroll some plastic sheeting, take 2 mops and tentatively reach over the lake of feces. Gimpy and Stain both latched on and we pulled them into the sheets, wrapped them up, and then hauled them off to the tard room and locked them in there until the administrators arrived. In that time, he had taken a stapler and broken out of the windows, tried to climb out, found it too high, climbed back in, broke the door window, tried to unlock it from the outside, couldn't reach, and then began flailing on the walls, smearing shit everywhere, and even on Gimpy. They both got into a fight, slapping each other on the face, and then Stain did the desk humping ritual again, where he pinned Humpy to the floor. The admins called his mother, and Gimpy's mother came to get them, along with the other 2 police officers. She tried to press charges, saying that I was tempting her son, and then I showed the cops the security camera footage of them breaking the lights, them smearing the hallway and shit. In the end, his mother had to pay damages, and clean up the hallway/tard room by herself as I watched with a smile. Gimpy was suspended, and Stain was never heard from again. And that, my friends, is how the war was won. I got to keep my job, and get rid of a gruesome twosome. I once knew a guy who was into fruit, so to speak. He'd bore a hole into one end of a watermelon, and so did his dingle, and let it fly. He apparently found the sensation interesting, and began experimenting. He found that slightly overripe melons were the best, as far as the texture and sensation went, as the texture was apparently more cottony, as he put it. I can certainly see why there'd be moisture. Anyway, the real breakthrough though, happened when he bored another hole in the other end, and slipped a vibrator into it. He raved about it for days. I haven't heard anyone talk about sex in such glowing terms since high school. As we began, one by one, to lose their virginity, it was like he discovered a whole third gender of people, with whom he was still a virgin, and began to seek his one true love. Things began to get a little strange. He really got into his experiments. He was going through 6 or 7 melons a week, easily. He acted like some horrible mutant psychological crossbreed of sex maniac, junkie, and quivering romantic. I never had the courage to ask him what he did with the watermelons afterwards. I almost did once, but I realized that it might be a rather personal issue, at least with him. He tried lots of different permutations. A vibrator at the edge, vibrator at the top, 2 vibrators, 1 at each side, vibrators in both sides and one end. He spent a lot of money on vibrators and watermelons. At one point, I later found out that a girl that we both knew demanded the immediate return of her toys when she found out what he'd been doing with them, which made us all wonder. She didn't mind if vibrators been used on another person, but it bothered her that it was in fruit, so to speak. He got obsessive. He drew diagrams. He experimented with different sized vibrators, a set for different pulse rates. He even took the vibrators apart to see if he could alter the way they worked. It was a real classic bit of mad science, which is how I got involved. He asked me to rig one of the vibrators so they could all be turned on and off with one switch. A week later, he came back to me with a problem. The perfect vibratory rate for this particular brand of vibrator was when the batteries were about half dead. Could this somehow be simulated? I wound up finally wiring up things together with an old Christmas lights and a toy train transformer, so we could vary the flow of juice, so to speak, to whatever suited his, fancy. I took the extra special care with soldering and insulation. Everything was waterproof by the time I was done with it. I learned my lesson well when it came to penises and electricity, you see. Finally, towards the end of that very odd summer, I received a very special invite onto my answering machine. He'd apparently completed his experiments that previous day and had mapped out the size and volume of the ideal melon, and a number of placement of vibrators to ensure the maximum intensity. The next day, he intended to have the ultimate vigor-sexual experience. Would I like to come watch? There would be wine and cheese, and a hallucinogenics buffet. I wouldn't be alone. He invited guests. I kind of wanted to, I admit it. I thought about it. It was an extremely bizarre thing, and I did a bazaar from time to time. But I had to work the next day. And somehow, the idea of skipping work to watch a guy fuck a fruit somehow just wasn't something I could reconcile to myself. That, and if bestiality was illegal, what would they do to you for screwing a vegetable? I could just see the local cops bursting in to grab some high-profile headlines. And then there were his friends. I knew some of them, and many of them were serious weirdies. I thought. Would the chick with the pierced nipples who'd like to go topless be there, I wondered. Pierced nipples were a lot less common then, and she and I hit it off pretty well at our first meeting. But if this was a party, and his friend who claimed to be married to his dog would likely be there too, and for some reason, this guy seemed to think I was his friend last time we'd met, I'd learned more about dog plumbing than I ever wanted to know. I begged off. Apparently, I missed quite an event. I'd heard about the happenings no less than 5 times the following week from the assorted people who'd been there. Our hero made quite the party out of it. Open bar for the guests, the promised buffet, complete with drugs and finger sandwiches. And he was answering the door and nothing but a pair of gold lame ball huggers. In the kitchen, he duct taped melons to a large cutting board and braced it on the kitchen table. When everyone was there, the festivities began, so to speak. He ditched the bull huggers. Someone offered to fluff him, and he graciously agreed. Much arousal and amusement ensued, particularly since the fluffer was apparently a guy. Finally, his manhood erect and ready, approached the cutting board. The openings had been drilled, the vibrators inserted, and the wiring arranged. I never saw this particular melon, mind you, but I can imagine it easily enough. His later experiments were so full of parts and wires, I'd taken to think of it more of a Borg melons. He lubricated himself thoroughly, and entered the fruit. The crowd watched breathlessly. He switched on the vibrators, the air filled with the hum of fruit come alive, and the smell of an excited watermelon. He groaned. The crowd gasped. He began to slowly stroke in and out of the melon. His eyes rolled back. Plainly, he was feeling no pain. The crowd began to get into it. He thrust into the fruit, harder, deeper. The crowd began to chant, "Go! Go! Go!" He began to lose control, furiously hammering the fruit. A couple of the crowd ran forward, grabbed the table and board, stabilized it. Our hero slammed into the melon, harder and harder. The crowd moved closer, gathered around him. They held the table steady, harder, harder, faster. And then, something weird happened. Weirder, that is, than the tableau already before our eyes. In truth, I guess it was my fault. I didn't foresee it, but I should have. I'm the one who wired the vibrators to work in tandem, using the Christmas lights for a model. I should have known that more than a dozen vibrators, all working at the same power source, might well fall into sync, and generate harmonic, sympathetic vibrations, which, in a semi-liquid environment, like the inside of an overripe watermelon, would generate positive feedback, increasing by the second. The guys doing whacking in and out wouldn't help. In fact, it probably accelerated the end result. Bottom line, just as our hero reached orgasm, the watermelon exploded, violently, shattering our hero, the kitchen, and the less than an innocent bystander, with, fruit salad, so to speak. No one had noticed the increased throbbing vibrations due to our hero's frantic thrusting. Hey guys, Anon posted a story a while back about his experiences with being forced into a relationship with a girl with Down syndrome. I've had similar experiences, so I thought I'd share. And yes, it involves sex, but near the end, it's a longer story, so bear with me. It takes some explanation to get the full good bit. Feel free to ask questions along the way if there's anything unclear. And I'm not going to ask cunt every time, because I'm not a cunt. Just read the story and try to catch up with me. I wrote this in advance. Be me, 16. Normal fag, nerdy, kissless virgin, beta, the works. Probably a 7 to 8 out of 10 in all honesty. Just shy/awkward as fuck around girls and no dress sense. Junior year and homecoming's coming up. Obviously don't have a date because beta. I'm a member of a club that helps yards throughout the day. You know the drill. Besides mom and teachers, the only girl I ever talked to is a tard girl. We'll call her Dipper because she really liked chips and dip, and she would always just eat that at lunch. Sometimes I had to sit with her. She was fat and not like pick related, which is a 10 out of 10 for a downette. No, she was like a 3 out of 10 on their scale, and wouldn't even register on the human scale. Really annoying, but I was stuck with her because I literally pulled the shortest straw in the tard allocation ceremony. Worth looking after her though, I guess. Gave me something to do that looks good on applications. Luckily, I have SmartFag going for me. All the alpha went into my grades reports. On top of that, Dipper had a really hot sister, we'll call her Sonia, who was a senior. Baked as I might be, such a connection would one day come in handy, I thought. One day, my friends, i.e. the other members of the Tard Wrangler Brigade, and I are sitting with our designated yards at lunch, and one of my friends, we'll call him Joe, brings up homecoming. You got a date on him? Pump sweaty, knees weak, etc. No? Can tell Dipper's perking up. For the first time all lunch, she stops eating her chips and dip. Joe knows she wants to go to Downs on me. Planning on asking anyone? He smirks. No, not really planning on going. Suddenly, a deep voice that will haunt me forever resonates through the cafeteria.
I got the homie coming with you, Nan,
says Dipper. Can see smirks on some of my Wrangler friends' faces. Even some of the other tums are about to kick. Don't know how to respond. Every bit of logic in my body wants me to say no, but can't exactly turn down a donut and get away with it. Imagine the tard rage. Decide, though it's probably for the best if I say no, would be too embarrassing. All of my friends looking at me, Dipper looking anxious, as the words, no thanks, start to roll out of my mouth. Joe about to shit himself with laughter, but trying to hold it in as not to offend the tards, as they can understand why he was laughing. Suddenly, Sonia walks over. Reminder, she's hot. Like a 9, senior sister of Dipper. Really nice, but obviously out of our league. I'm worrying more now, because if Sonia finds out I rejected her downy sister, how would that look? How are you guys doing? She asks Dipper. Dipper, whipping dip off her mouth, says,
I asked if Nan wants to get home ceremony with me.
Sonia turns around, looking sexy as hell but stern. Oh really, Anern? Will you accept my sister's invitation to home ceremony? Joe about to flip his shit. Can see his sides expanding already. A few of the other guys there are also trying to hold in their laughter. Well, I gotta say yes now, don't I? I guess so. Can see everyone smirking, except Dipper, who was gleaming happily. She's so happy, she literally jumps over the table to give me a hug, spilling her fucking dip everywhere. I flinch backwards, everyone starts to laugh, but there's now a giant downette on top of me. I feel as violated as the iceberg in the Titanic. And she definitely wouldn't fit on top of that door, unless it was reinforced with adamantine. Finally pull Dipper off me, and some of the adult wranglers notice the crisis scene, and come and restrain Dipper and help clean shit up. After the mess is over, Sonia comes over to me and says, "Thanks for doing this for my sister," seductively. After she walks away, Joe starts making fun of me. You'd think volunteer wranglers would be more considerate of the tarts. Hey, don't make fun of me, bro. What was I gonna do? Plus, she has feelings too. Homecoming is in a few weeks away, but Dipper won't stop clinging on to me, even when it's not my time of day to wrangle her. People obviously find out, and to some I become a laughingstock. Luckily, my accepting Dipper's invite actually gives me some cred with the ladies. Call me such a nice guy. In other words, "Aw, he's a beta, taking one for the team." Even worse when I tell my parents. They can't comprehend my beta. Mum literally has no response to the news. Dad just chuckles silently to himself in the corner while watching the History Channel. Decide to get ready for homecoming anyway. Realize, fuck it, I'm doing something good for society. Joe eventually calms down for his downs-coming jokes and realizes I'm actually a brave guy for pulling this shit. Dipper, meanwhile, seems like she's really fucking fallen in love with me. Somehow, probably through Joe and Sonia, she gets my fucking phone number and ends up sending me a fucking nude one night while she's romantically texting me. I would let the messages pile up and then respond to about 40 at the same time to save time. Nude, as you can imagine, is repulsive. Also, the first nude I'd ever received, therefore ruining technology-related sexual contact forever. I literally vomit a little upon receiving it. This was about a week before homecoming, but luckily she didn't send me any more pictures after that. I told her it was inappropriate at this stage, and some fucking hours she understood and agreed. Wait, did I mention she was allowed to own a cell phone? And that she comprehended texting? Don't always underestimate. Anyways, leading up to homecoming, there was some more shit. Lots more of Dipper hugging me in school awkwardly, and people laughing. But luckily, lots of Sonia talking to me and saying how happy she was that her sister had a friend as close to me. Once Joe realized how much of Sonia would talk to me because of Dipper, he started to get jealous. Even mentioned as a side comment that he'd even considered dating his own tardette, Jemima, if she had a hot sister. Tell him like the alpha that I was becoming, that he couldn't even pull that off. More girls started talking to me about Dipper, which continues to balance out the fact that Dipper keeps spilling dip literally everywhere around me, at lunch, in the halls, and so on. Basically, my job was to look after her and take her to and from her tard classes, like Infant Language 101. Anyways, long story short, homecoming comes along. I end up getting into Sonia's group, because how could she not include her own sister? A ton of alpha senior males, 9 and a 10 out of 10 females in the group. A dream come true. Finally, kind of, a member in the popular gang, even though I'm only there because of a chromosomal loophole. Go on a party bus, which is not a good thing with Dipper, if you know tards and buses. She flips her shit during the bus ride, ends up literally biting Sonia's date, the captain of the football team, I wrangle her the best I can, and everyone comes down. But it's clear for everyone's sanity that I shouldn't have taken Dipper Suarez to a Hermes ceremony in the first place. Finally, you get to the dance, and Sonia makes it a priority to get Dipper and I as far away from their group as possible. I end up dancing retardedly, figuratively and literally, in the back with all the other nerds and losers. She ends up forcing me to slow dance when we Don't Stop Believin' comes on. Worst part is when they play Gangnam Style, this is a few years ago by the way, or as she called it,
Gangnam Style.
she lets herself loose like a tornado in a big mesh of people, in the middle of the school gym, where the dance was obviously, and hits a few people while doing her dance. Sonia helps me calm her cyst hard down and gives me another seductive, thanks for being a good sport, smile. Finally, the dance ends, and Sonia invites me back to her place while they're having an after party. First time going to a high school party, never really been interested, but they're all 10 out of 10, so no shit I'm going. My face when I go back to her house, and her parents are out of town. Chill Uncle is overseeing the party. Uncle literally sits in the corner, smoking weed with some of the party guests. Probably like 50 to 60 people there, I guess, all dancing, drinking. What you'd see in a movie, but not what you imagine seeing in real life, especially if you're as beta as me. Dream come true. One problem, I'm still with Dipper, and still have to wrangle date her for the party. Perfect plan. See they have chips and dip. You know where this is going, so I'll be quick. I send her over to the chips and dip, and she's set. Now, for Ascension to Alpha. I decide that now Dip is satisfied, I'll try and satisfy her sister. I walk over to where some of the music/dancing is going on. Where we're in the basement, by the way, and join Sonia's group, who are sitting, chilling. Sonia introduces me to the people who weren't in the group, and congratulates me for being such a good wrangle date. Everyone impressed by my patience. Sonia looking seductive again, not even talking to her football captain date, who was off smoking a joint with the uncle. Girl is all over me. Is tight wrangling such a panty wetter? Yes, Anons, it is. Have a fun chat with Sonia and friends. They'll learn I'm actually pretty cool, despite being a shy tight wrangling nerd. By now, I'm obviously not as shy. Dipper actually did a lot to help me get over that, as did Sonia. Sonia and I finally learn, after about 30 minutes of conversation. She's obviously tired of organising the party, and people have gone off to drink, dance, smoke weed, etc., and we're just chilling on the couch at this point. You know, I've never been to anything like this in my life. I've never even tasted alcohol before, I say to Sonia. Well, there's a first time for everything, she says, smiling. Dick is diamonds now. Might go from dating a -9 to a 9 in one night? Will I fully reflect on this sex axis? Yeah, I guess there is. Well, Anon, what else haven't you done before? This is the moment where I revert to full beta alchemist. A lot of stuff. Like, sex? Yeah. I wonder how she guessed. Dick is now harder than Bobby Jindal, winning a presidential election. I can see from your pants that you wish that wasn't the case. Embarrassed, I cover my bun with my hands. Don't be embarrassed, she says, sliding towards me on the couch. It's flattering. She leans in to kiss me. My first kiss, if you hadn't guessed. Unless you include Dipper grinding her teeth against my lips a few times during the slow dance. You know, for a first timer, you're not that bad. You're more attractive than you think. Thanks, I reply, slipping down a further letter down the Greek alphabet with each syllable. She giggles and grips my hand, secretly sneaks me upstairs. We sneak up to her room, and she closes the door behind us. Obviously happier than I've ever been in my shitty life. Dick is harder than theoretical physics. Things are silent from now on. Just Sonia smiling. Except she says only one thing. And now I'll make it up for what you did for my sister. Fuck, now I'm thinking of that Dipper shit. Things get a little better when Sonia pulls down my pants and starts going down on me, but still interspersed with thoughts of Dipper. Still, getting my first beer is heavenly, and Sonia's a pro. Obviously done it many times before. Not a surprise, probably even did it to a stoner uncle, would explain the family's chromosomal deficiency. Her lips and tongue are incredibly wet, going up and down on my dick, and it's the best sensation I've ever felt. Unfortunately, I'm a beta, and it didn't last long. She realizes how sweaty and tense I'm getting, and pulls off for a second, saying, "It's okay, I'll be your first swallow too." Jackpot, the JPEG. Relax a bit, and let the feelings come. About to come, and start saying things like, "Oh god," and "Holy shit." I can tell she's smiling from when she's going down. Then, suddenly, the second most beta moment of my life. "I'm homecoming!" Sonia pulls off and laughs, and I come all over my pants on the floor. "Holy shit, a nerd!" Sonia laughs. I'm sorry, but I can't swallow that shit. She literally just sits there laughing, with a little bit of cum on her face that was lucky enough to hit her. I laughed too, but only to cover up my embarrassment. You need to work on your sexual language, Anon. Just sit there quietly giggling along with her. Like a good 5 minutes of her just laughing really loudly, and me just sitting there kinda giggling, with my cock out and covered in cum. But the worst is yet to happen. Yes, from what you're waiting is about to come. While we're sitting there laughing, someone comes into the room. And no, they didn't knock. Like Donald Trump in an election, Dipper barged into the room, screaming incoherently with fists in the air. Sonia literally yells, "Holy shit!" and says, "Sorry, Aneurin, but this is your problem." Sonia tries to get past her downy sister, who just walked in on her boyfriend with his dick out in front of her, but is obviously unsuccessful. Dipper punches Sonia square in the face, dip dribbling down her chin and Dorito crumbs all over her dress. Closes the door behind her.
Anon, why you do the fucky with my sister? I thought you was my man.
Guess you can't jipper the dipper. I say, obviously I have no fucking idea how to deal with the situation.
Well, that not gonna happen again. You gone fucky with me now.
Holy fucking shit. I'm about to lose my V-Con to a walking weather system? No, Dipper. I don't want to. No use. Dipper charges towards me and jumps on me. She pushes me onto the bed. If you've ever seen Norbit, you know the deal. Dipper rips off my pants, holds me down, and goes down on me. Basically, her tongue just pushes on and off, like a frog trying to catch a fly.
You like it in her?
She asks, drool dribbling everywhere. No, please stop. I forget that stop is the one word tards choose not to understand. The rest I legitimately don't understand. But here, it's her choice. She translates stop to take it to the next level and starts stripping. Dipper don't give. Trying to get off, she pushes me back down on the bed and continues slumbering on me. Releases her full nudity. Not bad for a chumpy girl, if I'm fair. Like if there was a bang on her head, I'd consider. Decide it's no use, and I'm just gonna get conspied, so I just relax and let her fuck me. Well, what really happens is she jumps on me on the bed, like a monkey, and squats on my dick. I have to guide it in. My first time I'm actually helping my designated tard rape me. Remember that Sonia is still knocked out. Damn, lucky no one has walked in the room. Probably too busy smoking weed. Anyways, we fuck for a little, and she basically just falls down onto my, and is in like a sleeping position, and she's too fat for me to turn over and to make some kind of escape. I finally get to the point of coming again. I have to close my eyes and think of Sonia. I get a glance of her unconscious body if I can. I tell her I'm coming, and by some godsend, she pulls off my dick, and I come into her shirt. This is the second most part of the sexual encounter. She took my cum and rubbed it off onto her face, along with the dip still left on her chin.
Yum!
My face when I was Dipper's dip. She then fell on top of me again, and kinda just lay there. Mind getting off me, Dipper? I plead.
I love you, Anon.
She said, just lying on top of me smiling. Imagine Drake lying on top of Josh, both half naked, and you get the idea. And now for the worst part of the entire story. After about 3 to 4 minutes of her just laying there on me trying to no avail to push her off, Dipper just let off the world's biggest, foulest, most rotten fart.
Oh, Anon, I gotta doopy some poopy.
Oh shit. Literally, I'm squirming, trying to get her off me to no avail. And then she literally just starts pooping on top of my dick. Like, shit is actually leaking onto my penis. If this hasn't registered, a Down syndrome girl is shitting on my pecker. I finally had it. And I use all of my energy to push Dipper off until she thumps off the bed. This, luckily, wakes up Sonia, who is obviously in pain, but turns around and fully understands the gravity of the situation. Dipper, now moaning on the floor, covered in shit. How the fuck do we rectify this shit show now? Fucking help me. I cry / moan, and Sonia, tears in her eyes, stands up, wipes off her face with my cum, and runs to get cleaning supplies. Now, I'm left with my shit-covered dick and my shit-covered downy wrangle date. You can't imagine the horror of my situation. I couldn't move because there was shit there, but I couldn't just leave a confused tart on the floor to cry in a puddle of her own feces. Sonia finally comes back to the two moaning retards and starts cleaning up the mess. Luckily, she said, the guys downstairs were none the wiser, and most people had left. She apologizes for all the shit that's gone down, literally and figuratively. I wish it could have worked, because I actually like you. You're nice, unlike the stupid and popular guys I usually hang out with. I'm lost for words, but I just mumble out a thanks. Once I'm clean, I'll pull my pants up and help Sonia tend to Dipper, who has fallen asleep on her own shit at this point. You know, she just wanted to have fun like everyone else, Sonia says, a tear in her eye. But she attacked me. And you. I say. Yeah, but only 'cause she loves us. Whenever you say it, I've been before. But actually, looking down at her, lying there on her own shit, I did actually feel sorry for Dipper. You know, she really is a beautiful person. She just wasn't blessed with the same genetics as you or I, Sonia says. I just wish she could be normal like us. Sonia starts to cry a little, and I comfort her. Sonia kisses me on the cheek and says, we can make this work. Just you and I. Together while we look after Dipper? I kiss her back, and start to laugh at the absurdity of the shitstorm I've just literally experienced. Yeah, I guess we could. And that's how I started my relationship with Sonia, which lasted about half a year before she graduated to become a nurse. That moment, with me, a guy who'd just been shat on and raped with a downette. A girl, the downette's sister, who had just been came on and knocked out, only to wake up with two people covered in shit in the same room, love sparked between us. And the downette, lips covered in cum and French onion dip, lying on the floor, asleep in her own shit. She looked so perfect lying there, in her white shit-covered underwear, and I know now that I'm so downs. When I was 4, we moved into a very nice neighborhood. 1986. Just built. Nice schools. A few weeks after we had moved in, our neighbors moved in. I remember the moving truck being there and wondering what was going on, so I went outside to investigate. Just a bunch of adults moving furniture out of the truck. I'm not interested anymore. Well, I'm outside. Might as well go play with my Tonka trucks in the dirt pit out back. Then I saw a girl in the backyard. She looked at me and ran around the far side of her house. For some reason I cannot explain to this day. I ran alongside the side of my house to the front yard, and there she was. Upon seeing me, she ran out of view to the backyard. Again, I did the same. This stupid shit went on for a few more times before I said the 4-year-old version of fuck it and just walked over. After some awkward introductions, we became friends. We were born only 2 days apart. Capricorn, bitches. Naturally, we became friends. So did her parents. She was a bit tomboyish, so she ended up liking a lot of the stuff I did. Like climbing trees, so did she. She liked to play tongas in the dirt pit, so a 6x6 spot in the yard my dad made for me. She was into creating channels that represented rivers and making a toothpick or popsicle stick bridges in there. So she usually ended up playing the role of the foreman, and I drove the tonkas around digging out her rivers. Naturally, we spent more time together than we did with our friends of the same sex. I clearly remember at barbecues, or just idle talk between our parents, the running gag that we were going to marry after high school. I think the fact that we were friends at such a young age and really enjoyed playing together erased the issue of leaving us alone together. As we got older, the leash that tied us to the house was removed. Around 9, we discovered that over the hill behind our houses existed a forest. Play in the woods was a common phrase. We would spend entire days in there. Can't do shit like that today though. In the summer of 91, we discovered something very neat. A clearing of about 2,000 square foot, with a large sycamore tree in the center. The floor was covered in ivy, not poison ivy. Over time, this became known as the place. It was also around this time we began to notice each other as more than friends. In the winter of 1995, January, it was now customary for our families to celebrate our birthdays together, generally on the day before hers or after mine. On her birthday, I brought her to the place. I remember that day clearly. The snowfall had covered the clearing, making the area look pristine. We walked to a tree in the center, and I gave her the first gift I could afford on my own. As dumb or as corny as it may seem, it was the first Calvin and Hobbes book. She was a huge Calvin and Hobbes fan, and I was never good at thinking up any thoughtful one-liners. So I just put "Happy 13th birthday, Feminom." I was given a hug as a thank you, and she sat up against the tree as we began reading together. She was halfway through before the sun had set and it was impossible to continue. But we did not leave. We continued to talk for about 20 minutes before falling silent. A head on my shoulder, both of us just enjoying the moment. Then, out of the blue, "Anon, do you like me?" "Yes." It was automatic and I gave it no thought. "I like you too." She looked up at me, and in a cold January night, under the tree in the middle of a forest, we had our first kiss. It seemed that in some women, a crazy switch resides in, and at an unknown point in their lives, the switch flips to on. Such was the case with my mother. I started with yelling and arguing, and closet alcoholism. Soon, men I'd never met before started coming to the house with her when my dad was at work. This went on till the summer of 1996. That's when the term divorce became a regular part of my parents' vocabulary. It was very ugly. But in the end, my mother won custody of me and got the house and pretty much everything else. We started our sophomore year together, but after a month, I was told we were moving. My mum would not tell me where or give me an address, thinking I'd give my info to my father, which he would get anyway through the courts, but at 16, I don't know how that shit works. I wanted to give Feminon that info so we could remain in contact. Remember, 1996, no Facebook, internet was still foreign to us. Knowing our time together was fast approaching an end. September 21, 1996. We moved the next day. It was very early and I had to sneak out of the house because at this point, my mum prohibited me from seeing the neighbours. She thought we were working with my dad to mine me for information. I knocked on her window and she pointed me to the back door. Her parents greeted me there, which I thought had me busted. The past year had fucked up my understanding of them, and constantly having to avoid my mother bled into me viewing adults as evil. She came out dressed and ready to spend our last day together, and her parents handed her a bag of food. You two spend as much time together as you need. We left and headed to the place. Most of the day we spent talking about how much bullshit it was that I was moving. It wasn't until the evening, when I reached the bottom of the bag of the food, that I found an unopened condom. Instead of trying to discover how it got there, nature took over. Once we were clothed again, the condom dispersed off, several hours had passed in total silence, just holding one another. The full moon sat directly above us, illuminating the entire area. It was then I checked my watch. 0255. The moving van would arrive in 5 hours. Knowing our time was up, another hour was spent boring. Just before we headed back home. Anon, give me your multi-tool. I handed her my Leatherman super tool my father gave me 2 years back. Son, if you're gonna spend that much time outdoors, you're gonna need a good tool. I remember him saying when I opened that gift. To this day, I always carry a Leatherman on me. She began to carve into a tree. Classic heart with initials. I carved my initials in. Carving into a tree is much harder than TV makes it appear. Now we'll always be together. I spent a little over 2 years with my mother before she relinquished all custodial rights to my father and moved out of the state. The past 2 years with her reduced my motivation to try and see Feminon again to zero. At this point, I had ridden off the whole thing and continued on with my life. Besides, I now live 200 miles away. At 17, I viewed it as impossible. Also, the insane amount of prescription drugs that she had had me on for bullshit reasons held me for pushing it off my mind. I joined the Navy at 18, spent 6 years there, AS. Went to school to get a BS in Network Admin, Linux, and began my career. It wasn't until I was helping my father move into another house, spring of 2008, when my past came flooding back to me. There was a box in the basement, labelled the non-school stuff. Why not? I had a few hours to spare for nostalgia. On top was a yearbook of my 5th grade year in elementary school. I began thumbing through it, recognizing names and faces when I got to my class and saw her. Over a decade worth of memories smashed into my brain all at once. With the book in hand, I ran upstairs, told my dad sorry, but there was something I had to do, and left. He later told me he knew exactly what happened when I rushed out of the house with the yearbook in hand. I drove 200 miles back to my old stomping grounds. The neighborhood looked unchanged, save for the trees being larger. I got to my old house and parked in the street. She had obviously moved too, since some people I'd never seen before were in the garage, retching on what happened to be a 65 Shelby. Guess I'll start there. Pardon me, Anons. They came out from under the hood. I explained myself, living next door, and asked how long they'd been there. 8 years. Damn, I've been away for quite some time. I asked if I could cut through their yard to access to the forest. Sure. Now, maybe because I was younger and lacked any concept of distance, or maybe I just got lost, but Jesus fuck, that place was a lot farther than I remember. When I finally reached it, I stood at the edge of the ivy. The whole area was like a time capsule. Nothing had changed. I proceeded towards the tree when I found the carving. I let it an audible, "No way!" It still looked as though it was carved within the past few months. And below it were tally marks that counted up to 12. 12! That's how many years since I moved! After an hour of boring, I returned back to my car. I thanked the homeowner, and just as I was getting into my car, "Hey buddy, hold on!" I'm not sure if this means anything to you, but I was thinking. Only 2 people have cut through my yard to get to the forest back there. You being one. Now, I don't know about the other, but for the first 3 years I've been here, every early January, I'd find footprints in the snow leading up to and out of the woods. Thank you, sir. You've done more to help than you could ever possibly understand. I returned early the next morning to help my father move and began my wait. Now, I had 3 days to choose from. My birthday, the day after my birthday, and her birthday. To maximize my chances of being right, I started on my birthday. Now I couldn't go back to Shelby Reelbeld's house, and asked to camp outside his house waiting. Besides, he told me that she had no longer used his yard to access the woods. The only other point of access was a park a mile away on the opposite side. The day before my birthday, I went to the park and checked the tree just as a dry one. Holy fuck, walking a mile through thick forest and goddamn snow takes for fucking ever. And thank God for GPS. There was no way I could have found it starting from the park. I was fully committed to this, to make sure I didn't miss a damn thing. I was going to stay overnight, each night, at the park, using his camping facilities for showering and whatnot. First 3 days, nothing. I was extremely bored, and by day 3, I was pretty much on the verge of saying fuck this noise as my patience had run out, and a car pulled up with a single female in it. She got out and walked into the woods. I was unable to confirm who it was, because some fat fuck of a was in my line of sight. All I knew was female, in a woods, and like a creepy rapist, I followed. The snowfall was heavy, and I had to follow her footsteps in the snow, and the breaking sticks ahead of me. Finally, I got to the place. Her back was turned to me, while she was carving another tally mark into the tree. I stood at the edge of the clearing, which put me another 40 square feet from her, and waited. After some sobbing noise, she stood up and turned. I heard a startled gasp from her as she froze in fear. I removed my hat. Her hands went up to her mouth, and tears began to flow. I walked over to her, and without a word, we embraced each other. After some time, we separated and began our reunion. I explained the whole deal to her, what happened after I moved, etc. Hours passed there until it was dark again. This seems to be a thing with us. Whenever we were both at that tree, we never leave until it's dark. She never married, she dated, but she said none of them ever felt right like we did. What I did find amusing was that she went to school for and became a civil engineer. Considering the billions of toothpicks and popsicle sticks that she used to make various bridges and buildings, it made sense. We spent the next few nights at her place, catching up. I was reintroduced to her parents, who were overcome with joy to see me. Her father did ask, "So on, did you get any use out of it?" I instantly knew what he meant. Yes we did. And I must say, where other parents would be dicks about the entire thing, you two understood what we had formed over this 10 years and encouraged it. When she re-met my father for the first time in my life, I saw him cry. It was rather awkward, but he was seeing the past my mother had stolen from me. A few months later, I proposed to her, again at the tree, where else would be appropriate at this point. For a brief moment, we thought of having the wedding at the place, but quickly realized the logistical nightmare of moving 20 to 50 well-dressed people through a mile of thick bush. However, the marriage was consummated under that tree. That fucking tree knows more about us than it probably knows about the whole goddamn forest by now. 12 months ago, she died of cancer. Shortly before she died, I was given a gift, and given strict instruction not to open it until my birthday. Her ashes were obviously spread around that tree, and the wedding and engagement ring were fitted over a young branch. Over time, the branch will grow and absorb them. This year, my birthday, I sat at the kitchen table with the present in front of me, debating if I should even open it or leave it be. After several hours of mental wrestling, I opened it. Calvin and Hobbes, the book I gave her 18 years ago. I opened it, and on the inside of the front cover, "Happy 13th birthday, Feminine." But taped to the top and inside of the cover was a folded piece of paper. I opened it to see the final panel of Calvin and Hobbes' strip. She had altered the panel. "You gave me what I lost to none. Until we meet again." Hey guys, it's been a year since my grandpa died, and in honor of his memory, I cracked open a bottle of vodka to celebrate his life. Here's a story for you bros. Also, share your own if you got 'em. Come from a post-Soviet era country. Dad ran off when I was 3, and Mom was dumb as f***, so I went to live with Grandpa. Grandpa's a pretty solid guy, runs a farm of his own, Grandma died a few years back. A few dozen sheep, half a dozen cows, and a few horses. Has much more, but has professionals to keep them out of the city area and tend to them on a massive scale in the countryside. Mom goes off to Turkey so she can restart her career in fashion management or some shit. Live alone with Grandpa on farm. Happiest 3 years of my life. Drink loads of goat, cow, and horse milk, and eat their meat too. Horse meat's delicious. Try it. Go horseback riding. Take livestock out for grazing, grow vegetables. Learn how to fight and stand up to bullies. Learn how to properly cook meat and bake bread. At that point, my shitty aunt and her deadbeat husband returned from Saudi Arabia with their towelhead Muslim paradise. Broke as fuck, so Grandpa lets them live with us, lets them use his car, and even gives them money to rent a house of their own. Even stops these Muslim dickheads from trying to get me circumcised at the age of fucking 7. Mum wants me to live with the aunt and uncle who live in the city so I can go to a good school. So I have to leave my grandpa and live with these 2 Islamic dickheads. The next 4 years were hell. These fucking arseholes were ridiculously strict and abusive Muslims. Forced to be Muslim myself. Have to pray 5 times a day. Have to wash nearly entire body to be pure for prayer. Waste 3 hours every Friday to go to a mosque with other hairy neckbeard Islamics as they pray to Allah. Aunt and uncle don't drink or do drugs, but hitting me was their outlet. Not even disciplining me by speaking or slaps on the hand. Literal strikes that gave me bruises on my face and body. Here's a fucking 40-year-old fucker and his wife, routinely beating a 7-year-old. Best times were in summer, when I visit my grandpa and he'd always have food and toys waiting for me. Always crying when I had to leave his house at the end of summer. Mum didn't know how bad it was with my aunt and uncle, and I didn't say anything because I was too scared. Eventually, ran away by the age of 9, and the police found me at an internet cafe and returned me home. Got the ass whooping of a lifetime. Got hit by a fucking rolling pin, and got a bump on the head, followed by a standing in the corner for 4 hours as punishment. Ran away again at 10/11 years old, but this time I had money. So I bought some bus tickets, and 7 hours later, I arrived at my grandpa's house, way outside of the city. Took me in without a word. He already suspected that I was being abused by aunt and uncle. They show up the next day, demanding I come back. Grandpa pulls out a fucking rifle and goes to the door. They run with their tails tucked and show up with police. They call my mom, and I'm forcibly removed while they keep my grandfather down on the ground. Mom, at this point, was in a relationship with a guy that she met in Turkey. They'd already been going for a while and were planning to get married. After the call, she decided she'd be willing to marry him and now get me out of that shithole. I ran away again, and this time I wandered from a friend's house to friend's house, being sheltered by them, and occasionally sleeping in the warm stalls in public bathroom malls and movie theaters. At this point, my mom had already gotten married to my stepdad and planned to come visit and surprise me. When they arrive, I'm nowhere to be found. They're frantic as fuck, go to my granddad, and he doesn't know. Granddad explains to my aunt and uncle that were most likely abusing me and beating me. Eventually, I had nowhere to go, so I turned up at a police station and they brought me back. Here comes the waterworks. This bitch of an aunt and her cocksucker husband could actually act, crying and wondering why I ran away. I was stunned at the display of their drama serial-esque acting they portrayed. Grandpa came in and patted me on the head. Eventually, Mum and Stepdad took me away. Every time they tried to pat me on the head or hug me, my natural instinct was to duck or back away. Stepdad was especially appalled. Moved to the US and visited my grandfather during the summers. He was already reaching the mid-70s, so his mind and body became weaker. Reached the point that he had to sell most of the house/farm and moved in with my aunt and uncle. Didn't want to see those monsters, but went for Grandpa's sake. No surprises when I saw they treated him like garbage. Here was a guy who worked so hard to support his 5 kids, his 2 dead brothers, 4 kids and their wives, that his hair has turned completely white by the time he's reached his mid-50s. Here was a guy who I saw wrestle our neighbor's bull away from one of our heifers, female cow, who was trying to fuck her. Here was a guy who reached 70 before he even drew back on how much vodka he drank. This fucking harpy and her husband turned him to skin and bones. His boisterous and larger-than-life presence became small and compacted into a small room in front of a TV. This was the first time I really learned how to hate someone. As a kid, I was getting beat and betrayed for being a bastard child. I only felt fear and wondered what I had done wrong. Now, as I was growing up, I saw that these people were just psychopaths, and given any shred of power, they'd lord it over others. I eventually began saving up my allowance during the school year. I began to mow lawns, trim hedges, clean yards and pools. Dad, stepdad, but I love the guy, was astonished that I was making nearly $200 a month, in addition to my allowance of $8 a week. By the time summer rolled around, I visited home. I'd buy socks, shirts, shoes, and coats for Grandpa. Even took him out from a summer horse festival celebration, where they did some crazy shit, like hanging off the side of horses. Got him a nice TV so he could watch those action movies on the cable channels, old-ass Jackie Chan movies, Jean-Claude Van Damme, and some newer stuff, like Undisputed. Dude was happy as fuck, but was still getting shit on by his own daughter. She intentionally didn't do his laundry or forgot to pick up his meds. As I grew older, I hated these dickheads more and more. They even had the gall to ask why I was spending so much money on my grandfather and not on them. I reached 18, and that was the last time I saw my grandpa for a while. Since my dad was rich as fuck, he sent me to a good California university, where I worked my ass off, taking a winter break and summer break classes, managing to graduate in barely under 3 years, with a bachelor's in CS. Talked to Dad about wanting to move Grandpa in with me, and he said he'd help me out financially. After half a year of going to the consultant every week, got him a visa. Went and picked him up and brought him into the States. Grandpa was fucking ecstatic. It took nearly a fourth of my paycheck every month to afford him medical insurance, doctor's visits, and meds. But I was happy. I took him to horse races, but he laughed at all the posh dudes with their hair, and I quote, "Uniforms fit only to please other men." Rough translation. Took him to an outdoor shooting range. He told me more about his time in the military and how he eventually had to leave after his 2 brothers died, and he had to work at numerous jobs to support everyone. Handled rifles, pistols, and shotguns with ridiculous accuracy despite being over 80 years old. Learned a bit of English and began going around by himself, making friends with the old Russian guys throughout the city. He had an enjoyable time. I like to think that he was at his happiest those last 5 years of his life. Passed away at 86. Took him back to the homeland to be buried alongside with Grandma near the rural village area. Out of nowhere, all of these arthurs who were nowhere to be seen when he needed to be cared for started showing up as if they were truly saddened. Buried him, and afterwards, we were all informed that it last of his will and testament. The lawyer pulls out a fat stack of papers and begins discussing business. Grandpa drank like a fucking pirate and was rowdy as hell. Grandpa raised farm animals for a large portion of his life. Really common thing to do on the side while you also work. Grandpa was a pretty normal guy, it seemed. Nope. Grandpa knew how to invest his money in long-term growth assets. Grandpa bought a piece of land outside the city around the late 80s, right when the Soviet Union collapsed. Back then it was dirt cheap, because dumbass Russians didn't do shit with cities. 26 years of growth later, this piece of land that went from $2,000 of value to over $400,000, which is a fucking fortune back where I come from. The eyes of my family members when they see the value of the land. They started laughing and hollering like they won the lottery. That wasn't all though. He also had 400 sheep, 120 cows, and 60 horses that had to be tended by workers. Their net value came in approximately $10,000 of their own. After he appraised the value, he read the actual letter, and it went, "I've lived a long life filled with many hardships. My family was big, and I worked hard to help you build a path of your own lives. Whatever I could give, I did, whether it was money or guidance. In my old age, I realized that none of you cared for the hardships I faced and only wanted more. My own daughter would insult me, and husband would treat me like I was a burden of his life. My brother's children, whom I'd raised as if they were own, were distant and never bothered to even call me on their phone. The only child whom I raised that reciprocated my gratitude wasn't even my own. He was my grandson. He took care of me and valued all that I had to offer. In the time I spent in a foreign land, I experienced things I could never imagine. Lived out my life of happiness. The ones that I called my own children couldn't even do a fraction of that service, and like the leeches, only wished to suck more from me, and discard me when I could offer no more. In this lifetime, I learned quite a few things, and have some value still to offer. But to those who ignored me and treated me as a pest, I will not acknowledge in the least. I understand that the only person deserved my true gratitude. Thus, I leave all of the land and assets I own to my grandson, and my grandson only. Mentioned me by full name. And no one else may say claim to it. Old man was grumpy as fuck. I was crying halfway through the letter, and I wanted to laugh my ass off by the time I heard the end. I'd never seen a group of people explode faster. Aunts, uncles, distant relatives all began to talk shit, some at me, some at the lawyer, and at each other. Amongst the 8 people, 5 of them were absolutely losing their shit, excluding me, lawyer and dad. Even my own mum, who was talking to me like I personally killed Grandpa. Then, shitty aunt and 2 uncles talked to lawyer, saying that they wanted to dispute the claim. Nope, because it stated me directly by name and there was no confusion as to what was to be divided. I got everything. As soon as the lawyer explained that, they came to me like a fucking dogs, saying and how I'd goaded him by taking him away to the US, and how he was fine where he was, so my aunt and her shitty husband. At this point, I was emotional as hell when I heard them. I fucking shattered. I began screaming at them, using every single swear I knew, even though I was rusty in my native tongue. Never forget those gas words. I told them how I should kill them for the grief they caused me and my grandpa. Then told them the rest of my family, including my mom, that they could have at least helped him and taken care of him. But it took some kid to work to the point of exhaustion for 3 years so he could get his grandfather away from the shit environment he was in. They tried to say shit, but I got louder and louder. Then Dad stepped in and walked me out. Lawyer came up, gave me documents, shook my hands, and said it was the first time he'd saw somebody explode that hard. So I went back to the States. I came back 2 months later and talked to a financial advisor. Sold the livestock for $12,000 and pocketed it. At this point, the land my grandfather owned is nearly $500,000 in value, and the people are sending me emails constantly about buying it. Talked to the advisor and decided to lease it. Rented it to a pretty large retail company that wanted to pay me a price of $50,000 after tax, and after a 5-year contract, I'll probably ramp it up. That spot became an extremely valuable plot of land in a very commercially dominated area. Brings us to now. I've cut contact with most of my family. Even Mom's not that involved. I still keep little sis and granddad in because I love them. Here's a shot to Grandpa, peeps. Just wanted to share my story since I have nobody to talk to. It may take me a long time to write it, but I hope at least one person reads it. I just want to feel connected to someone. This is my first post in here, after having lurked since forever. Have a really fucked up, non-abusive childhood. I was responsible for taking care of my paralyzed father since I was 9. My older siblings were all able to enjoy their sports/social interactions and got to go out, but I had to stay in. I was like a subhuman to my family. Me and my father were really close, and I didn't think anything was wrong with taking care of him. I literally bathed, fed, clothed, medicated, and handled all of his finances and everything while growing up. My mom helped, but she had to work. I'm not socially retarded, I just don't have any incentive to do anything now, and lament interacting, because I don't understand how. My dad died 3 years ago, almost. I literally do nothing with my life. I work, go home, and don't talk to anyone. My last 3 birthdays pass, and none of my 3 brothers even called to say happy birthday. I don't get invited to family functions. They're all mad that my dad left me mostly everything. Finally start going out after work. Enjoy seeing NBA games. Meet a really nice girl. We start talking. I'm 22 and I've literally never had a girlfriend since I spent 16 hours a day caring for my dad, plus school, plus working while growing up. My brothers all make fun of me relentlessly. Family calls me a hermit and jokes are constantly thrown at me. Me and this girl start going out and she's a genuine 10 out of 10. First relationship, so literally just taking it slow and just doing things how my dad told me it goes. Multiple dates over 3 to 4 months. Eventually get serious. C knows how I grew up and took joy in teaching me the ropes. Eventually, one night we have sex, and it's fun as fuck. We move in together at 14 months. Feel like my life is getting better, enjoying everything. Eventually become a well-known calligraphy artist for a wedding company. I visit my dad's gravestone often and just talk to him. Suddenly, I get a call from my mom while at the cemetery one time.
Your oldest brother has been in a car accident. Please help us out with the medical stuff, please.
Yes, Mom, no worries. I will help them, since it's what my dad would have wanted. Call GF, she isn't answering. Leave her a text, then I'll be home late. Get to hospital. Square everything away. Tell the hospital I helped pay for / whatever his insurance didn't pick up. In waiting room. Nobody talking to me except my grandmother. She always loved me and is just chatting. Suddenly, Nona's girlfriend's parents come in the waiting room. They see me and start asking me, "What happened to our daughter?" What do you mean? I texted her I would be here. Did she maybe tell you guys I got in an accident? No, she was just in an accident also. Turns out my oldest bro was fucking my girlfriend. Kind of numb at this point. She ends up dying. Revoke my promise to pay for his care. End up contemplating suicide. Drink heavily for a few months. Don't know what I'm gonna do with my life. First real relationship ends like this. My brother somehow fucked me with the ultimate betrayal. My mum says it's my fault because my cheating fucking girlfriend got my brother killed somehow. If I didn't date her, they would have never met, etc, etc, etc. Now family goes from passive aggressive to full on hate / shunning tier. I'm drunk right now, sorry, I should have notepadded it, but I didn't think I could stand writing the whole thing out without bawling on this fucking train and everyone looking at me like I am a fucking madman. Finally, decide I'm just gonna get away from everything and hopefully die off in some faraway country. Enlist in the army. Airborne / medical officer. Basically a combat medic who gets attached to a random special forces unit when they need me, or I stay attached to my main unit. Kind of just floating around all over Afghanistan, doing things, being a medic and shit. Basically a glorified nurse with a gun. Over one barbecue and drinking night, we had around year 4. I basically tell my story to everyone. Eventually, everyone starts looking out for me and shit, since I'm known to have pulled some crazy stunts, like pulling 3 guys up in a mountainside, or being fired at by enemy snipers / riflemen and didn't really care. They think I'm a crazy motherfucker, and will always make sure I have things I need at our base. Since nobody ever sends me any care packages. Guys tell their wives to send me from Tabasco, drinking mixes, seasonings, just really cool shit that makes living in the desert much more bearable. Eventually, befriend a few of them. They all live in Texas and want me to move there if we all get out. Out of the 4 of us who are really close, 2 died in the line of duty, 1 killed himself when he got home 2 years ago. It's just me, and I moved to Texas in honor of them. I stayed in contact with their families, and my best friend's family adopted me kind of. They always invite me to family events. I would do anything for them. First feeling, aside from my squad, where I feel accepted. Promise his mother that no matter what happens, they can always rely on me if they ever need anything, and I 100% mean it. Her husband got sick for like 8 to 9 months, and I took care of everything around the house for them. Yard work, trimming trees, helped out with their bills. I would do anything for them. Eventually, a productive member of this local town in Texas. Everyone knows me. I enjoy helping the local city group by setting up things around the town like festivals and shit. A bunch of older / younger sons of older guys group up and always set up booths / build the stages, and literally just a bunch of dudes who meet up and drink and handle all the manly handiwork for the town. Eventually, 1.5 years pass like this. I'm nearing 31. Have random flings with local girls throughout this time. Just enjoy the little things in life now. Video games, pool hall, hunting, fishing, working. I'm content. Suddenly, my adopted mom calls me. Her husband died, and she needs me now at the hospital. Help her through the ordeal. Make sure she has everything easy and can just mourn. Me and her 26-year-old daughter are setting up everything. I'm making sure no expenses spared. Through this process, me and her daughter end up getting close. She missed having a crush on me when I first got here, but always felt shy about talking to me. Laugh about it and explain that I'm a dirty old man compared to her. Eventually, this culminates into a relationship that's kind of flirty / friend tier. One day, a few months after everything, her mum calls me, tells me that she found a bin of letters from a best friend to her husband. Wants me to go pick them up and read them, since a few of them were about me, and had a letter from her husband to me. My best friend Calvin, who died, told them all about me while I was over there. How I took care of him when he got shrapnel in his ass, and made sure that he was taken care of before I just disappeared into another unit I got attached to. This was 2 years before I even met him. Further into notes. Talks about how he thanks God brought me back to his unit, because I am his group's medic, and nobody had died since I got there. Tells me about how he wishes he could have had a brother like me. I'm in tears at this point, even while on the train. He literally told his mum that if he and me made it out, he wanted to get them to somehow adopt me. He really saw me as an older brother. Send them a picture of our whole unit cooking some meat and smiling and shit while we were over there. Him, me, and one of the other guys who became great friends are in our BDUs and have shit-eating grins on our faces, while our 4th bro is in crutches with his hands wrapped in gauze, smiling in an apron. Tells them I'm taking care of everyone, not to worry. Wants them to meet me somehow. Eventually, get to his last note he actually had on him when he died. First line reads as follows. To mom, dad, sis, and the non. If we didn't get blown up together. I just wanted to let you guys know. I'm sorry, I can't even write what he wrote, or I really lose my shit. Suffice to say, it was his reason for enlisting, and hoping that he made his family proud, and his dreams for his sister, and a personal thank you for me. Eventually, thank God for everything that happened in my life. Realised the promise we meant on a mountainside, while nearly dying, meant the world to this man. Realised it means the world to me now, and I have purpose again. Realised my selfish reason for joining may have been the best thing that happened to me. Show the note to his sister. She laughs, cries, laughs, mourns again. Somehow, she ends up staying over at my place because she was drunk. We end up kinda getting together more often. Kind of falling for her, but scared of relationships. What would her brother think? Her father? Her mother? Kind of not sure what to do. Ends up leading to this last month. She wants to be together. Explained to her my worries, fears, thoughts about everything. She says she would give me time to think about it, but if I don't want to try anything, to let her know so she can move on. Disappear and go back to hometown. Rent a hotel room, visit my dad's gravesite to let him know about my life and cry a bit. My grandma is still alive. I call her house number to see if she would see me. She's ecstatic that I'm doing well. She thought I died in a ditch somewhere or something. Tells me to leave the hotel and stay with an old lady to make her happy. Agree with it. Realize how much she reminds me of my real dad. Cherish every second with her. Eventually, word gets around that I'm back. 2 brothers and mom drive to grandma's house and try to threaten me that they're going to beat my ass. Don't really care, since they have no idea I've literally been soldiering for the last 8 years, plus hard manual labor in Texas. They are all fat, and just in general look like meth heads. Grandma tells them to leave. They aren't welcome. They threaten her to shut up, it's none of her business. Don't want to start anything, so just take their verbal taunts and shit. Finally, they decide to leave. Tells me they hate me, and know that I didn't amount to shit. Eventually, come to 3 days ago, and I make sure my grandma's house is all fixed up. Before I leave, we painted everything for her. Cut a bunch of firewood, did yard work for her, made sure she was good to go for when winter hits her. Glad that at least someone in my real family has appreciated me aside from my dad. Tells me she is so proud I managed to get out of the town and make it somehow. Decide it's time to head back to Texas. Don't want to use free flights, so I want to visit another old friend in California who died and passed through visit his military grave. Take a train to IDE to Cali, handle my business there, get back on a train to Texas. Not sure what awaits me there. I don't know what to do, guys. I really like this woman, my friend's sister. I just feel like somehow the betrayal that was given to me by my brother would be repeated if I did anything inappropriate with her. She's a wonderful person and reminds me so much of him it's scary. He was the only, outside from my military friends, I ever had in my life since I had no childhood. If God gave me the option of making sure he got her home instead of me, I would in an instant kill myself, so he would have had made it back to his family. If it wasn't for him, I would have never made it back, I think. On some levels, I may have physically saved him multiple times. And me, I feel like meeting his family was my ultimate salvation. For the first time ever, I felt what it was like to enjoy a Thanksgiving meal with people who truly felt thankful for. I made a bunch of new friends and interact with the community now after moving to his town. I feel like I'm somebody worth seeing. Yet, I feel so torn between making something out of his sister and me and honouring his memory.
I don't expect to be believed. I'm just gonna tell the story and go. 19, male, Arizona. When I was young, I actually lived with my dad in a caravan park in the desert at the edge of some poor hick towns. Pick, sadly related. The people there were basically 100% white trash burnouts. The most depressing kind of environment for a kid to grow up in. Dad was alright. He drank but wasn't angry. Worked a lot and didn't really care what I did. He was a demolition worker and would sometimes be gone for days at a time. During these times, I would stay in this one van with a family of 3 who we were pretty close to. There was the dad, John, and the 2 sons, one my age, Michael, and one a year younger, who, no shit, was called Dog. Now, even in that setting, Dog was a weird name. Like, there were literally people with the name Cletus there, and even they laughed at the name Dog. But the family was really nice nonetheless. I hardly saw the dad, because he worked and drank like my own father, and was usually me, Michael, and Dog mucking around the caravan camp, doing whatever we liked. Michael and Doug were really nice kids, but I'd had a little bit of education, having spent a few years with my mom in the city, and comparing these kids were pretty simple. Their idea of fun was catching lizards and mashing them up with sticks, which was a good way to kill time though. They also had a PS1,
with some games that were always glitched out. The main thing I remember about hanging out around them was the smell of their caravan in the heat. This rancid stench would build up as we played PlayStation or mashed lizards or whatever. The hotter the day, the worse it was. So one day, I asked them what the smell is all about, and they said they showed me. So they take me to the back section of the caravan, which is cordoned off from the rest by one of those sparky bead curtains, and that's how I found out their dad was into taxidermy. There were buckets of roadkill, and his taxidermy hardwork lined the walls. The windows had been fully taped over with black duct tape, and was actually bubbling in the heat, leaking this thick plastic-type smell that mixed in with the smell of meat. I saw most of the taxidermied animals were lizards, and realized why we were all about killing lizards. I was creeped out, but after a time, I didn't notice the stench so bad, and became interested in how well crafted the animals were. The sculptures all had real craftsmanship and talent, or so I thought as a kid. In retrospect, they were pretty crude. So I'm admiring the taxidermy when the door slams shut, and I almost shit myself when John is standing over me, staring hard at me and his kids. But then, he just bursts out smiling and acting like a giddy child, eager to know what I think. He seemed so happy when he said I liked it. I genuinely did like it too. As a kid, you sort of don't have a broad enough awareness of social norms to know that taxidermy is pretty creepy. Another thing I didn't notice at the time was that even though he was incredibly nice and warm to his sons, they both acted totally submissive and treated his every word as an order. When asked if he would like a beer, for instance, they would both say, "Yes, sir," in tune, and rush to the fridge. But he just laughed, and they were smiling, so I didn't suspect anything was wrong. That night, we made a small fire outside and all got drunk. Me, Michael and Doug were kids, so it didn't take much. We huddled around the fire as John enthusiastically started telling us the story of how Doug was born. He had a truly beautiful mother, he said, who loved Michael more than the world. Michael didn't remember his mother, and the story made him sad. Their mother and John had once lived in a nice house in a different state, and when she got pregnant the second time, it was like a miracle, he said. Then a glaze crossed over his eyes and his voice got whimpery. Before Doug was born, Mother had buckled to the floor and blood was coming out of her. And when they got her to the hospital, no sooner had Doug been born, she was dead. We all got a bit teary-eyed, John especially. He hugged his son Doug. "Mummy died so we could have you, my baby boy," he said as his son cried. They both cried and held each other. But I noticed Michael was smiling wildly. He turned to me and said,
Daddy's gonna make sure everything's alright again.
Hearing his father said, "Yes, so I will make everything alright again." And they just had me join them in their family hug. As we hugged, something bad happened. John suddenly yelled and thrust us all off him. He smashed his bottle on the ground and started breathing heavily. Doug tentatively approached him and started asking what was wrong. His father turned to him with wild eyes as bright as the fire and screamed at him not to talk like that.
What did I tell you about talking, Doug?
Doug started stammering, falling over his own feet into the gravel. I was too woozy to think straight as I watched this horrible sign. Michael put his hand on my knee and squeezed. John approached the boy and hit him in the neck until he cried out in protest, making John hit him again and scream,
What did I tell you, dogs? Don't talk!
And Doug, on his hands and knees, tears running down his face, started whimpering like a pup. And then he was barking, and then howling. John hit him again, and on the neck, and said,
Louder!
Doug, living up to his namesake, frantically woofed and barked, running around on the sand on all fours. John seemed happy with this, and seized the boy under the stomach. He sharply ordered his other son to follow, and they disappeared inside. Before he left, Michael shot me a big grin, the same smile he'd given when he said everything would be alright. For a long time, I didn't see them. I told my father about what happened, and he said he'd be talking to John about his drinking, but that's all he could do. "You can't tell people what's good for them," he said resignedly. I saw Michael a couple more times, killing lizards behind my caravan. We'd exchange hellos, but nothing more. Then I saw him one more time, a few days later, on one of the hottest days I remember. He looked really satisfied, and was strutting around the caravan a lot, whistling to himself. When I approached, I saw he was holding a small blade, glinting with fresh readiness. "Killing lizards?" I asked tentatively. He winked, grinned big, and said,
Just making some final adjustments.
and he walked off. As he did so, I heard a slow, awful moan from behind the caravan. It was a guttural wail of an animal. Before I could even reach it, there was a sound of a door slamming, and only twin pearls of blood droplets were left in the sand. Many weeks passed, One day, I was home alone when there was a knock at the door. I opened it and saw John, standing and smiling. His appearance struck an instant unease in me, but he started apologising for the night I had witnessed and seemed very genuine. He talked about how his drinking was out of hand and how he really shouldn't have gone off around me. He wanted me to know that things were finally getting better. He wanted me to come over and see them all. Half out of fear, half out of childish naivety, I followed him. "I really am sorry. He should know not to act that way," he kept saying. "But things are finally getting back to normal. It's been a long road, and a hard one, but things are finally coming full circle." I noted now that the windows had been blacked out. He opened the door and shut it behind me. Inside it smelt worse than ever. I almost gagged at the fecal stench. The burned plastic and the minced meat, and it was hard to see too. The whole place was dimmed out through the taped up windows, and a cloud of foul-smelling steam hung in the air. I looked down and saw Michael, casually sprawled out in a mattress, playing PlayStation, as if unaware of the changes. He was excited to see me.
Hey man, things have gotten so much better. It's been a long road, and a hard one, but it's finally getting back to the way things were.
He was grinning like he could hardly contain himself. Him and his father kept exchanging sneaky smiles. I noticed he was wearing a shirt and pants many sizes too big for him.
Who's up for a beer?
He announced. His dad jokingly responded, "Yes sir, man of the house," and bent down to get some cans out. Michael shot me a look like they were both in a big joke. I tried to ignore the noises coming from behind the bead curtain, but he sensed it on me and said, "Wait till you see it, our brand new dog." Michael passed through the curtains in a few steps. I felt John press a cold beer into my hand and his palm against my back, pushing me through the beads into the taxidermy room. The smell was all-pervading. Bowels of meat lay around the floor, some visibly glistening with maggots. The buzzing off of flies half melted into the windows filled the place. And in the corner of the room, overlooked by the stuffed heads of the animals, was a kennel. The rest was like a fever dream. Michael's voice was insonorous, and far away, he said, "Out! Dog, out!" John stood in the corner, pride swelling in his face. And then it was a shuffling out of his kennel, one paw after the next. The brand new dog was John's best work by far. The unsteady, wobbling walk was achieved through 2 cuts of the wrist and ankles, very small. I remembered the blade and the droplets in the sand. His hands and feet dragged pathetically behind him as he lurched forward. A diagram of wires covered the body, performing functions I could only guess at. The back was bent into a curved shape of a dog, and the head jutted forward from a neck embellished into a chicken wire and wounds. But the face was the masterpiece. The jaw had been stretched out into a contraption looking like a mouthguard that sturdied itself with thick pylons in the gums, split down the middle so the entire tongue was permanently flapping out. Dripping the nose had been, it seemed, flattened into shape. The open nasal cavities were thickened, coated with wetness. The ears, dragged back towards the shoulders with chicken wire, were now long pointed, stretching the whole head into a brand new shape. The only thing that retained untouched were Dog's terrified eyes, from which I saw were bleeding streams of tears.
Good boy.
Michael was saying, kneeling down to Dog's level.
That's a good dog.
Then he struck it on the back, and it buckled over.
Stop that!
He ordered.
Dogs don't cry!
Well trained, Dog let out a series of woeful howls. Michael, pleased, pushed down a bowl towards him, and Dog, eyes unblinking, eagerly dripped his face straight into it and lapped it up. Michael and John stood side by side, the father with his hand on his son's shoulder. "You did great, son," John said. "Everything's almost alright again. Everything will be back to normal now." Michael nodded. "Now, son, it's time to put down the dog." John gingerly helped his son grip the rifle steady, helping his fingers around the grip and the trigger. I couldn't move. Not even a foot away from me was Dog lapping up slop, its extended snout dripping with rotten meat. I could feel the heat of his body. I was so close. Michael steadied himself with the big gun, obviously not used to its weight. He stumbled back once. His father gently helped him back up. I couldn't feel my own body anymore. Only the smell. The heat of the dog. That's it, John was saying, helping his son aim.
Dog!
Michael clicked.
Come here, boy!
With horrible slowness, Dog turned on his spindle legs towards his brother. As Michael crooned,
Good boy.
The most awful sound emanated somewhere inside Dog's throat. The gurgled sound of the attempts of human speech in between half-formed barks and whimpers. As the blast exploded through the air, I passed out. When I came to, the gunpowder smell was still heavy in the air. I groggily took in the scene. A lumpen mess on the floor had once been Dog, John, beaming at it, and Michael, looking for once strangely serious, as if something had occurred to him just too late. As I slowly began twitching my fingers, urging any sort of movement out of my dreaded body, John placed a hand on his son's shoulder and said, "It's finally over, son. It's back to the way things were." For a moment, Michael looked at him, confused. He then suddenly struck his hand hard with the butt of the gun against the wall. There was an audible crunch. My leg twitched. John looked genuinely hurt and went to grab the gun off his boy, but he yanked it out of reach. "Son, what are you—"
Stop that!
Michael screamed.
Don't do that!
I began to inch across the floor, pushing my dead-weight body with the weak leg thrusts. John lurched forward forcefully. "Give it to me, you little cunt!" There was a second blast, and John fell to the ground, screaming and hollering. The black smoke and new, richer texture to the flesh smell wafted out. His whole foot was gone. Wasting no time, Michael leapt onto his all fours, brandishing the little blade from earlier. John was crying and yelling as I pushed myself out the doorway. Working fast, Michael carved through the Achilles tendon and his left ankle, which loosened with a slight pop. John screamed again. I pushed through the jangly bead curtain. There was a sound of wrestling in the room and more screaming. "Son, for fuck's sake, stop this!" As I hobbled, half paralyzed on my knees, I opened the door and heard for the last time, "Stop that! Dogs, don't talk!" The caravan was gone within days. My father didn't know what to believe when I tried telling him the story. I was delirious from the shock and had to be taken to hospital. When my mother found out about the night spent in the hospital, she flew in to take me back. I spent the next 7 years systematically forgetting certain things about my time with my father. I managed to pick up school after a long time spent as a suspected mute or something. Even made friends eventually. I received little correspondence from my father. He remains at the same caravan park to this day. One day, I got a call from him saying a young man had been asking for me. He was sad to hear that I no longer lived there. He asked to leave a message. It goes as follows. "Dear Anam, it's been 15 dog years since we last met, but I just wanted to let you know that old bitch is still kicking. I've made some big improvements since last you saw her. Hope everything's alright with you too." I never heard of him again. Help my fuck. I've got one from just last year. B23. Stalking in the woods. Arkansas Ozarks. With some new gear I'd been saving for months. Boots, tack vest, my fuck, even a Milsep gas mask. It was like Christmas. Being where I was, and wanting to field test some personal prototypes, I had my nugget on hand. Wouldn't do much against the big bears, but it'd ruin any snake/stray dog/cougar's day right to hell. Had a couple of strippers and 2 clipazines I built and wanted to field test in my pouches. Some rolled up targets stuck to my loops. I had a light complement of survival gear. Compass, topo map, thermal blanket, spare undies, extra boot, MREs, canteen, and a camelback. Amphetamines, bug spray, rope, spikes, mallet, e-tool, shower powder, baby powder, TP, the works. I've done nothing heretical to my nugget, I swear. Clipazines are what I call my jerry-rigged magazines. I'd custom built from old cannibalized mags and sheet metal. They fit right into any nugget's feed if you pull the floor plate out, and also dumped some Highland-esque mods to my gas mask. An airtight, at least now, water feed. But I digress. Basically practicing the inevitable commie/Capita/Jew/Guiana/Dindu/Cracker/Chinese/Korean/Canadian/Chiratu invasion. I was having a fucking great time, romping around in the woods, playing with my FOV in the mask, testing the reliability of clipazines, generally having fun. I wandered next to a creek bed and decided it was time to practice my guerrilla tactics. It was late summer/early fall, so no danger of getting my gear wet with a non-existent stream. Shit, was in more danger of water damage from my sweat. Needless to say, I got winded right quick. I stood panting in that dry stream bed and decided to check my position with my topo map and compass so I could set a course for home. In the middle of orienteering myself, I caught wind of a smell. In before blooded copper, but it wasn't. At first, I assumed it was a sweaty thunder, but the funk quickly evolved into something fucking worse. A dark undercurrent of rot, deep notes of animal musk, a bassy score of raw garbage punctuated with garlicly tempini, and a thick black score of something between a skunk and a rotting onion sludge, a symphony of stench. And drove the opening movement straight into the schizo, because that shit was getting stronger. I went into straight operating mode, popped an Addy from my pouch for extra focus, pulled the clippers in from my nugget, seemed to have been working fine, but if I was going to shoot something, I preferred not to have any risk of jamming. I gagged and nearly puked up that Addy tab. The smell was that strong at this point. Whatever the source was, it was definitely mobile and getting closer. Fuck it. I pulled my mask up from around my neck and pulled it over my face. It helped slightly, but my fucking dumbass waterline wasn't 100% airtight around the joint. I walked cautiously and slowly along the creek bed, where the slope was the shallowest, listening for a twig snap or animal sounds from above. I definitely heard something shuffling around up there, and it sounded bigger than what my nugget was up for. It was a near constant snuffle grunt, and a sloppy, uncoordinated crunching around bark and leaves. That mixed with the smell, and mine immediately jumped to Big Bear. Rabid Big Bear. Let me tell you about Ozark Big Bears, straight from my dad's mouth. Dad lived in the Ozarks for 58 years, and in that time, only two things managed to shake him: the challenges of fatherhood and the big bears. According to him, the native black bears were hunted to near extinction between the 40s and 50s. To correct the ANRC, NRCS, and Arkansas Fish and Games Commission released 250 bears into the Ozark and Washita Mountains. Their website insists that they were all black bears. My dad insists that this is bullshit. According to him, more than a few of the bears released into the Ozarks had been brown bears, and they had been interbred with the few remaining locals and reintroduced blacks. Thanks to the little phenomenon known as hypervigor, the resulting offspring were bigger and meaner than their parents, and, fuck me, were also fertile. When I asked him to prove it, he simply left the summer porch, went upstairs, and came back with a manila folder named BB. He pulled out a couple Polaroids and asked me to take a look. I saw a big, black and brown something rooting around behind a clothesline. Dad directed my attention to the clothesline, about 50 feet away from us, strung between two poles, around 5'6" off the ground. The same clothesline in the picture. The something's shoulder was about a fart length under the line, despite being in the goddamn background. I looked through the other picture. One of them was rooting in trash, another barely concealed by trees, all of them slightly shaky. Detail was hard to come by, but I was convinced. I'm taking some classes at ATU till the 2nd, so no dice. But I'll trip fag, and put my email in the options box so you can bug me about it then, in case I forget to make a thread or something. My dad told me two things about how to avoid getting my shit shredded by big bears. 1. Big bears are stupid as shit. Something to do with them being hybrids. This makes them more dangerous than other bears, because they ain't afraid of you. This also makes them smell like shit. You smell them coming a mile off. You smell a big bear, you get inside and upstairs and take a shotgun first, and some deer slugs. And 2, if you do see a black bear, and you ain't home, or you ain't got a shotgun loaded with slugs, hide. Up a tree if you can. They're faster than you, and you ain't no use running. I tell you this because after 23 years, I finally managed to prove my dad wrong about something. Well, half wrong. There's something in the Ozarks that match my dad's picture of the big bears, but whatever they are, they sure as fuck aren't bears. Back to the woods. I would have stayed in that creek bed and waited for the something to fuck off on its own business. But the light was already slanting through the trees, and as bad as my dad made Big Bear sound, I'm sure as tits that I didn't want to be stuck in the goddamn rabbit one after dark. I instead opted to climb up the opposite edge of the creek bed, had to scramble over some big rock outcroppings and half stand, half lean against the slope of the hill, but I figured if anything, that would be more than one layer of protection against that something. I just fucking stared. Like I said in my previous post, this wasn't a fucking bear. It was bear-like, but not a bear. I've been into sci-fi my entire life. High-Linux mods to my gas mask, and even Barlow's Guide to Existentials from my awesome late stepmom. So, when I saw the something for the first time, my fucking nerd brain immediately went, oh, a solder. Pick-related. Except it wasn't. It looked like a solder. A grizzly bear and a sloth had a three-way on top of a garbage heap to make it, and a long prognathos snout, like a stubby-ass trunk, big angular shoulders, feet that look like manhole covers coated in dirty, matted fur, and a body like a furry blimp. The fur was that same charcoal black/day glow brown I saw in the pictures, and full of mats and clumps of dirt. I mean, I just fucking stared at it, drinking in the details, trying to make some sense of what I was looking at for a solid 2.5 minutes, and somehow it had noticed me. Jesus, these things were dumb. I remember feeling a twinge of relief. If it hadn't noticed me trying to scramble out of a rocky gully, it won't notice me sneaking away. That was when I farted. Fuck, my email is, if you ever feel inclined to ask me for pics for a month now. That something stopped. My breath stopped. My heart stopped. The only sound in these woods were my fucking heart echoing from the sound of my nose blistering under the something's odoriferous assault. Like slow-mo, the thing turned its head, looked back at me, sniffed the air, and stood up. It had been shuffling around, crunched low to the ground the entire time. What I had thought were its shoulder blades were its fucking elbows. It could tie its shoes without bending down, but its paws would probably crush its Air Jordans to bits. They were like trash can lids. It sniffed the air again, and it coughed/barked like it was asking me a question. Gorp. I swear on me mum, that's what it fucking sounded like. Gorp. Be me. Be dumb fuck who didn't listen to his dad. Be Orca Cringelord who fucking farts when he's trying to sneaky breaky away from the goddamn Gorp. Aim for center mass. Fire. The bullet didn't thwack into the Gorp, because hey, if you're gonna die, you might as well give your killer a stupid name in the head, right? There was a puff of dirt and hair when it thwomp-fed, and, bless my luck, the Gorp flinched from the impact. Wait for blood. I guess the Gorps are so covered in nasty flea-ridden hair mats that over the time their poor hygiene gives them a natural body armor because the thing didn't fucking bleed. And what it did do was rear up and gorth at me. A low growl that my colon decided was a warning because it was producing bricks enough to construct a barricade. I worked the bolt and fired another shot, this time at its ugly sloth/bear/elephant face. This time it thwacked, and so did the dirt a dozen feet to this fucker's left, because it ricocheted off its fucking skull! The Gorp just stood there, staring at me, like it was too dumb to realize it could have just stood in the stream bed and grabbed me by the face while it pelted me with its useless bullet and shit myself. I yelled and fired a third shot in any direction at all, trying to scare it off. The Gorp or Gorth or Big Bear or whatever it was dropped to its all fours, lurched toward me, then did a 360 and shuffled away. It worked. I stood there until the sky turned from blue to orange before I snapped out and tactically retreated back home. When I got back, I told my dad everything. I probably should have mentioned him that I was visiting for a few days. Oops. Probably could smell the big bear on me. And it's no use lying to him. When I got to the part about the big bears really were, he refused to believe me. Then he got pissed at me. Then he locked the doors and camped upstairs for the rest of the visit. I had to fucking bring him beer from downstairs when he wanted to shoot the shit. The weird thing is, as scared as he was, and as weirded out as I was, seeing my dad as spooked as a kid who's seen a skeleton, I wasn't scared. I remember that very clearly. I wasn't scared. I guess you could say I was too interested to be scared. If I wasn't scared, I would have just bolted. Probably be typing this from an inside a year-old Gorp turd. If I had to guess, it'd probably be that fucking Adderall I had pumped. Well, okay, you probably stopped reading 2 posts ago, and that's how I met a Gorp and lived. This is gonna be the last of my posts. It's gonna be a long one, but it will describe the incident that eventually led me to move to Europe. I thank you all in advance for reading my ramblings, and I especially thank those of you who believe me. It all started when Peter got a terrible idea. He suggested that we found a central point in the forest, perhaps near a lake, or anywhere deer were known to frequent. There, we would set up a blind, in one of the biggest trees there, and camp out for a week or so, shooting any deer that seemed off. At first, I called him a dumbass, seeing as our job was to preserve the wildlife rather than mow it down. To be honest, I was also terrified at the thought of spending an entire week in the middle of nowhere. He called me a pussy and gave me an ultimatum. Either you go with me, or I go out alone. I wasn't about to let my best friend go out there all by himself for a week. He probably knew that, and used it as bait. We drove to the local hardware store and picked up the necessary equipment for our little project. Screws, wooden planks, rope, etc., etc. Then, we went shopping for other supplies, such as canned food and water. We loaded our ATVs with all of our gear and set off into the wilderness. I wondered why Peter suddenly wanted us to do something so rash and stupid, but figured he had just had enough. I didn't blame him. The weird thing was though, we actually had not experienced anything unnatural for almost half a year up until that point. Part of me wondered if he actually wanted to seek it out, for some reason. He never told me why he decided to lead this retarded crusade against the deer, but I still went with him so that I could watch his back. We eventually found a pretty large lake, surrounded by big, beautiful trees. It was early August, so we weren't in any danger of freezing to death while we slept. We started building our blind, which ended up being more of a wooden platform, 5 or 6 meters above the ground, with a great view of the lake. By the time we were finished, the sun was setting. We had no sign of wildlife while we built our blind, but figured that was due to the amount of noise we made. Our plan had one huge flaw that we had failed to realize. Fucking mosquitoes. We had no cover. We were placed right next to the goddamn mosquito capital of fucking Russia. We caught no sight of anything strange on the first night, except for each other's swollen faces. At the dawn of the next day, we awoke to the sound of something splashing around in the water. We peeked over the edge of our blind and saw a doe, along with 2 fawns. We observed them for about 15 minutes, before we determined that they were pretty normal. Similar incidents happened every once in a while the first couple days, nothing out of the ordinary. I felt relieved, and wondered if they had migrated to some new place, planning on terrorizing some new rangers. But, for some reason, Peter seemed extremely tense, and would curse under his breath. "Hey, Peter, the fuck is going on, man?" He looked at me with a hollow expression, and sat up beside me. He explained that he'd been having nightmares about the deer. He felt that if he had killed some of them, he could prove to himself that he had nothing to fear. The poor guy hadn't had a decent night's sleep in over a month at that point. He almost started crying while he told me about these things, which really showed me how close this guy was to the edge. I had to help him, so I stayed with him and kept a lookout while he took a nap. I hadn't told him anything, but I'd actually been looking into how much it would cost to move away from Russia. I hadn't said anything because I wasn't really planning anything. Besides, I didn't feel like I could just leave him behind. I kept an eye on our surroundings for several hours, and almost decided to just lay back and enjoy the view of the lake, when I heard something approach our left. Out of the tree line stepped a long stag. I waited a bit, to see if it would behave strangely before I woke Peter up. It bowed its head and motioned as if it started drinking from the lake, even though it wasn't anywhere near the lake's shore. That was more than enough proof for me, and I slowly shook Peter until he woke up. He instantly crawled over to the edge and looked at the deer, grinning with some sort of sadistic satisfaction. He aimed at it with his rifle and fired. A direct hit, straight to the chest. He let out a sigh of relief and started laughing. We heard the sound of several animals walking around within the tree line, but never saw one of them. It almost seemed like that lone stag had been bait to see how we would react. It only fueled Peter's paranoia. He was practically trembling with fear every time we heard something wander around in the tree line. Sometimes a deer would appear on the far side of the lake, but no matter how many times Peter and I shot at it, we would never hit it. At night, our main source of light was a lantern that ran on petroleum. Part of me always suspected that was a horrible idea, to use that in a blind made of dry wood. The 5th night into our crusade, shit hit the fan. We kept spotting the eyeshine of several animals, but every time we looked through our scopes, there was nothing. It felt like they were toying with us. Peter started firing shots into the air, trying to deter creepy fuckers from whatever they were doing. But, of course, it didn't work. I picked up the lantern and raised it higher, in order to illuminate the ground better. When I stand up, I get lightheaded and fall over. I drop the lantern, which in turn starts a goddamn inferno. We abandoned everything and just descend down our rope. My rifle was up there, along with most of my favorite gear. As we stood there in the night, the blazing blind illuminated a lot more than the lantern had. I still shudder at the thought. The largest flock of deer I had ever seen was standing in the tree line. All of their eyes were lit up from the flames, giving them a hellish appearance. Peter is practically hyperventilating at this point and makes a dash towards our ATVs. We hit the ignition and get the fuck out of there. We never looked back to see if they followed or anything the entire ride back. We just kept driving, letting out cries of adrenaline mixed with actual terror. When we got back, Peter just went home without saying a word. I went to my apartment and completely shut myself off from the rest of the world. Locked my door, closed the blinds, and turned off my shitty phone. I stayed that way for a couple of days. Then, I got the sudden urge to get a drink. I'd already consumed every bottle of alcohol in my apartment, so I went to the bar that was located on my street. When I entered, I was met with worried looks from people who knew me. "How are you doing?" the bartender asked me with a sympathetic tone. This surprised me, because none of them should have known about the shit Peter and I went through the past week. "Could have been better. Why?" I asked. "Well, after Peter's accident, he kind of just disappeared for a little while." "Peter's accident? The fuck had happened while I was in my apartment?" My expression made the situation pretty clear. "Oh shit, man, I thought you knew." Then he filled me in. Peter had packed his bags and rented some rundown car with the intention of skipping town. He had taken off in a heavily intoxicated state and had hit a tree at 120 kilometers an hour. The car was totaled and Peter died on the spot. After a few minutes of silence, I remember standing up and just walking out of there. I walked around aimlessly for hours, trying to make sense of what had happened. Eventually, I found myself back at my apartment complex and noticed a piece of paper hanging out of my mailbox. I began tearing up when I read it. My dear friend, I've decided to leave this place. I can no longer bear the shadow that looms over us. I hope that you will come visit me someday. You helped me through some shitty times, but this time you can't help me. If you decide to come over, you can find me at 666. Not exactly written like this, but you get the general idea. I cried for so long that it seemed like an eternity. Still tear up as I'm typing this. After about a month or so, I decided to move out of Russia to get a fresh start. I know I can never escape my past, or the nightmares that keep resurfacing, but I can't put great distance between then and now. I still miss that crazy bastard every day, and will never forget what an amazing friend he was. I now live safely in the heart of a big city, far away from any forest. Sometimes I go and drive through some of the more scenic woods, but it still feels so fake. European forests don't have the same raw feeling as the Russian forests. I sometimes miss my old home. I just wish there wasn't such an abundance of terrifying animals roaming the woods. I haven't experienced anything unnatural since I moved, and I finally learned to sleep properly at night. I regularly speak to a psychiatrist about some of my experiences, and I feel more in control of my fears now. Well, that's my story. Believe it if you will. Either way, it is very real to me. And next time you get the chance, please raise a glass to Peter, honor his memory, and the man he was. Here are a few shorter incidents that can't be made into very detailed stories. I once saw a dear mother bite her fawns by the head, and it started shaking it violently until its neck snapped. She then dropped it to the ground and nudged it a couple times, as if it didn't quite understand what she had done. Didn't stay to observe, because I was a bit freaked out. I found a dead deer lying next to the tree. Markings on the tree, a couple up with markings on the deer head, suggested it rammed its head into the tree's trunk until it died. Took a blood sample, completely healthy. Stumbled upon a fresh kill in the winter. A deer with half its face and neck missing. A large hole in its abdomen with guts hanging out. As I poke the wound in order to check its temperature, the fucking thing lets out a yelp and rises to its feet. In complete disbelief as this bloody mess turns its head to look at me, it starts walking away calmly. Collapses after about 10 meters and doesn't get back up. This will be the last from me for now. I am pretty tired and it's exhausting to relive all these horrible memories. I may post more tomorrow, but for now, I will leave you with this. I've been seeing a girl for a couple of weeks. For some reason, she found my job hot, and I thought I was some sort of macho dude. Went along with it because she was hot. She also hooked Peter up with one of her friends. She lived in one of the fancier houses in town, with a nice view of the forest from my living room. We decided to have a double date at her house. We would watch a movie and eat dinner. Of course, it didn't take long before Peter went to the guest room with his girl. Decided not to waste time either, and started sexy time as well. At this point, I admit I neglected my duties a bit. Peter and I hadn't even been to the forest that month. I hadn't responded to any calls regarding sick animals or poachers. We'd gotten caught up in our own personal lives. It honestly felt a bit nice to get a break from the work, seeing as we weren't exactly ever off duty. We fell asleep on the couch in the living room. At some point during the night, I woke up. It was a beautiful, starry night. Walked up to the glass door leading up to the terrace in order to get a better view of the sky. After a few minutes, I spot something in the distance. A faint glow of eyeshine from something staring intensely at me. I froze in place and observed this unknown creature as it slowly started walking towards me. When it got within light emanating from the house, it revealed itself to be a medium-sized red stag. It just kept walking towards me, never blinking or taking his eyes off me. It walked directly into the glass, which seemed to puzzle it. I started nudging the glass, which turned into violent pushing. At this point, I started backing away, still in complete disbelief as what was transpiring in front of me. Girlfriend wakes up due to the loud banging on the glass. "What the fuck is going on, Anon?" she asks, still half asleep. Before I can answer, the stag starts letting out this guttural screams as it intensifies its ramming. It breaks through the glass. Girlfriend screams, and Peter comes running down the stairs to see what's going on. The stag just calmly walks up to me, like it hadn't just broken through a glass door. It keeps letting out those horrible noises as it just approaches me. I tried backing up, but stepped on some glass and fell on my ass. The stag just observed me, with unflinching eyes, as it kept bellowing. Girlfriend was still screaming. I'm suddenly deafened by the sound of Peter unloading his small sidearm. He hit stag multiple times, but mainly missed, leading to a lot of property damage. The stag falls to the floor with a wet thud. To this day, I'm still grateful to Peter for bringing his gun. Girlfriend broke up the next day. She said that I was either cursed or unlucky. Either way, she didn't want anything to do with me. I still always sleep with my blinds on. I never want to see another window into the night, especially when I know what might be on the other side of the glass. I may have ignored the forest, but certainly didn't ignore me. I've returned. I will share a couple more stories with you. I once found myself lost with Peter in a snowstorm. We were basically as fucked as we could ever be, with no shelter or any way to start a fire. The snow was falling so densely that we couldn't see more than a few meters in front of us. Wind was so cold that my lips started bleeding. We drove around for what felt like an eternity, until we came up to an old, decrepit hunting cabin. We had difficulty dismounting our ATVs, because our clothes were frozen solid. I still remember how Peter was shaking and clacking his teeth. The cabin was completely empty, but had a simple fireplace and some semi-dry wood. As we sat there, slowly warming up by the fire, we had a moment of absolute dread, and we realized we might actually fucking die. We had no idea how long the storm would last, and there wasn't a whole lot of wood for us to burn. Peter then rose to his feet and muttered, "Fuck it, we're tearing on." He went outside and returned a few minutes later with an axe. For a brief second, I legitimately wondered if he was going to put me out of my misery. To my relief, he started slowly beating the ever-living shit out of the floorboards. "Use this as firewood. It should keep the fire going for a while longer. Bless you, Peter, and your demented brain." In the end, we probably burned about half of the cabin's floor, which revealed more and more of the cold dirt underneath. And fucking of course, there happened to be some remains of a couple people down there. We were waiting out the storm, stuck in a fucking murder cabin. The remains looked very old, unfortunately, just dusty skeletal remains. Seriously debated whether or not we should stay or leave. Decided to stay, because we'd have a better chance of survival against a psycho Russian killer than a storm. At one point, I swear we heard someone approaching the cabin, only to run away into the wilderness. It makes no sense because only a mentally deranged mongoloid would have the balls to wander around there. Then again, we were in a cabin with corpses under the floorboards. We sat with our rifles, ready just in case. After a long while, the storm started winding down. We emerged from the cabin, dug our ATVs out of the snow, and made our way back to town. Navigating was a lot easier, now that we could see where we were going. Immediately, we went to the police station. They were surprised to see us, since they'd already reported us missing/dead. We told them about the cabin, and agreed to show them the way the next day. I slept for about 14 hours, after soaking in a tub of hot water. Best sleep I've ever had. We met up with the officers, and led them through the forest to the cabin. It was fucking gone. There was no trace to be found of it whatsoever. The trails left behind from our ATVs were still very clear, even the spot where we dug them out. But the cabin was just not there. There was a clear area where it had been, but there was nothing but a fresh layer of snow. The officers looked irritated, and said that we were wasting their time. They said we must have been hallucinating, or that we drank too much of Peter's homebrew. It still makes no sense to me. Never found an explanation. Peter and I had been on one of our excursions in early autumn, when we came across a panicked hunter. He begged us to help his friend, who'd been attacked by a bear further up the trail. He drove us to where the incident had occurred, but it was already too late. His friend, who was fucked up beyond belief, face ripped off, gutted, limbs bending in unnatural positions, almost threw up at the sight. We decided that this bear was too dangerous to be left alive, since it was roaming freely close to the town. We started looking for tracks to get an idea of where it was headed. The hunter was just sitting up against a tree, too shocked to react to what was going on. He kept describing the creature as a bear, and then we asked him. The thing is, we only found deer tracks at the scene. Against our better judgment, we started tracking the fucker. I swear there was a constant stream of cold sweat running down my back while we hunted this nasty motherfucker. Would honestly rather have been tracking a bear at this point. We reached a clearing at some point where we found a piece of the guy's face hanging from a thorny bush. We were shitting enough bricks to build the new Berlin Wall at this point, but we trekked on. We finally caught sight of the fucker. It wandered aimlessly around in circles, almost like its internal compass was fucking up. This time, I was the one who shot it. Couldn't let Peter have all the fun. Hit it in the head. Instant death. Chunks of flesh were still hanging from its antlers. We had to collect the individual pieces and put them in a plastic bag so that we could deliver it to the morgue with the rest of the body. We gagged as we did it. It was so fucking horrible. I had to drive in the shocked hunter back with us so that he could deliver his testimony. "Why did you tell us it was a bear?" Peter asked him. "You would never have believed me," he said. He answered, "If only you knew." Peter and I were hanging out at his apartment one night, sharing stories and drinking. Sat out in his small balcony and smoked when we got a call from the police station. There had been strange sightings of a large animal, presumably a bear, roaming the area. Some locals were pretty spooked and reported it to the police. Of course, it fell under our jurisdiction. We decided that we would check it out in the morning. We didn't feel like chasing some large identified creature while we were half drunk and the sun had gone down. Sit for a few more minutes, just chatting when a deafening screech echoed out from beyond the tree line. We were silent for a couple of minutes. "Fuck me, that was loud," Peter said. "No shit, jackass." We decided to check it out. Operation Half-Drunk Russians Packing Heat commenced. We wandered around aimlessly, randomly pointing our flashlights and rifles in the dark. "You've got to be fucking kidding me," Peter shouted out. He had found a large cloven footprints. "Don't tell me this is another fucking deer, I swear to God!" He sounded both angry and scared shitless, rustling behind us. We both instantly turn and aim at the sound. Two glowing eyes reflect our flashlights. It lets out a loud fucking squeal and charges at us. We both light the fucker up while we shit our pants. It's a boar. A fucking boar. It was so fucking big that we initially thought it was a bear. Pig related, it is eerily similar to the bastard we shot. "At least it wasn't a fucking deer," I said. Peter let out a nervous laugh and shook his head in the awe of the fucking beast lying before us. Honestly didn't know what to do with it. We hadn't bought our ATVs, and the thing was way too heavy to carry. Decided to just leave it for the wolves to scavenge. Police actually believed us this time. "Some of the hogs out there can grow to enormous sizes. You're lucky it didn't get you." Another thing to worry about. Fucking great. Most people don't know this, but there are loads of unmapped and unexplored cave systems all around Russia. This is also the case for where I live. It wasn't uncommon for Peter and I to stumble upon a cave or two while we were on excursions. Lots of local legends surrounding the caves, like an underground city of subterranean people, covens of witches, prehistoric animals, and so on. Whatever the case, I've always found the cave systems fascinating. It's like entering a new world, where the same rules don't apply. So when the police mounted a rescue team to help a teenager who had gotten trapped in one of our caves, I didn't hesitate to volunteer. At this point, Peter and I were respected, and were well liked with the police. They trusted us, and included us in some of their work. Peter didn't come along this time, because he was too hungover. As the case stood, two teenage boys tried to explore a local cave system that had some very steep drop-offs. One of the boys had lost his footing and tumbled down into the darkness. He was still alive, but had broken his ankle and couldn't get out. Rather than getting stuck himself, his friend had chosen to send for help. We made our way through the cave, making sure to watch our steps. The cave floor was a dump and covered with algae, so it wasn't a surprise the boy had slipped. When it came to the drop-off, we shone our light down at him. He waved and smiled, knowing he was saved. I started descending down the steep rock wall with a rope tied around my waist. When I reached the bottom, I secured the point of the rope and gave the officers the signal to start pulling him up. "He went that way," the boy said to me, and pointed to a narrow passageway at the back of the cave. "Excuse me?" I asked, wondering if he had just hit his head on the way down.
"My friend, he came back for me. He told me he'd found an exit that way."
I was confused but told him, "Your friend is up there, with the others." His face went completely pale on the spot.
"But he was down here with me. He went that way."
An uneasy feeling hit me, which I tried to ignore. Now I was stuck at the bottom of this small chasm, until they threw down a rope again. And this kid claims that someone was down here with him, even though his friend had gone straight to the police. I felt very exposed and kept focusing on the narrow passage at the back of the cave. I point my flashlight to the ground to find his fucking footprints leading into the passage. Fucking barefoot. Fuck. Just as I'm unloading a metric fuck ton of bricks, They threw the end of the rope down and hit me right in the shoulder. I let out a shriek of terror that those bastards never let me live down. As they pulled me up, I refused to look back down. Got the fuck out of there as fast as possible. Fuck whatever was down there. One of our biggest problems with the poachers was that they would sometimes leave behind heavy-duty rusty bear traps, pig-related for reference. Sometimes they never came back for them, which meant that some parts of the forest could potentially be a minefield of broken ankles. Sometimes we'd find rotting carcasses that had become trapped in one and left to die. I once almost stepped in one, but Peter noticed the change in time to stop me. Thanks again, buddy. One time, we came across one of those traps, which had been sprung. Left in the trap was a boot, with the foot still attached. The rest of the body was gone. A large pool of blood left behind, along with bloody pieces of fabric. From what we could see, it looked like someone had gotten stuck and then had his foot amputated. We followed the bloody trail, but found no body. He must have been with a friend who drove him out of there. The ironic part is, the bear traps are fairly easy to break out of, if you know which pin to pull. Poor guy lost his foot because of some dumbass poacher. Took the foot with us and asked around the police station. They hadn't had any reports of people getting fucked by bear traps. This guy didn't even go to hospital. This meant that he'd either been a poacher himself, or just one tough son of a bitch. Never found him, or heard from him since. Still, finding a severed foot is never nice, especially when you know the type of shit that's out there.
Thank you for watching this video. Make sure to subscribe to Mr. Green and check out all of his social medias down below. My name Goda.